Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the latest episode of the Hard Compound Live, the 97th episode of the Hard Compound Live, if you can believe it. For those of you who don't know, my name's Rich, and I run and operate the Hard Compound, one-stop shop for all things motorsport, from F1 to touring cars to GT racing to rally cars to bikes to IndyCar, NASCAR, and everything else in between. We try and cover it the best we can with 2 or 3 posts every day on our Facebook, Twitter, and our Instagram. So just search for the Hard Compound on any of those 3, and you will find us. In case you hadn't noticed, we also do live interviews such as this one. These are streamed live, just as this one is, on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And they're also saved automatically, so you can go back and watch them whenever you like. Just to give you a brief rundown, I guess, of just some of the guests that we've had on from across the motorsport spectrum. I've had the honour and the privilege of speaking with Mr. Mario Andretti and with Jackie Ickx, and just a fortnight ago with John Watson, which was fantastic. We've spoken with Mr. Mike Wilds. We've spoken with Mark Sura, Martin Donnelly, Perry McCarthy, Karine Chandok, Roberto Guerrero, Raul Boisel, Mika Salo, Emanuele Pirro, Mark Sura, Scott Pruitt, Alex Palou, Catherine Legg, Alonso Jr., Ari Lyndike, Willie T. Ribbs, Mark Blundell, David Brabham, Derek Warwick, etc., etc. Many fantastic guests. But if you're tuning in this evening, you might like a bit of touring cars and British GT racing. We've had a few of those guests on as well. Mr. Dick Bennett, Mr. David Addison as well. We've also had Jason Plato, Matt Neal, Ivan Muller, John Clell, and Steve Soper, Jason Plato, Rob Gravitt, Frank Sittner, Rickard Rydell, Gabriele Tarquini, etc., etc., etc. So some fantastic guests. Go and check them out. They're in the video section on Facebook and in the live section on our YouTube channel. But as always, do not go and do it just yet. Save it for another day when we don't have a brilliant guest. But tonight we do. We actually did an Instagram live way back when the page started. So we're back for a proper chat this time. Quite a lot has gone on. Real fan favourite. Great guy, great racer. Raced in the BTCCs, raced in the Porsche Super Cup, raced in Giannetta's karts, and a lot more besides. So we're going to bring him in. I'm going to stop rambling. So without any further ado, please join me in extending a very warm welcome to Creasy himself, Mr. Michael Crees.
How are we going?
All good, all good. Not as good as you. You've got a cup of tea.
Yeah, well, it's like a bowl of tea as well. Jodie's
that is a bucket.
It's like a bucket.
A bucket of PG tips. I've only got a small mug of coffee. You've beaten me. Right.
How's it going anyway? How's the family and everything else, mate?
Yeah, the page is still going. I'm still going. The family's still going. So can't complain. All good at this end. Everything okay? Right, then. Well, I don't know about that. I'm doing something. I don't know if it's right or not. How's everything at your end? All good? Good, and a good holiday, I hope?
I think we're all right. In fact, obviously, we had a chat earlier about getting a laptop or something like that. So I've managed to dig out an iPad and plugged it into the wall. And we've got 5% at the minute, but it was up to 7. So I'm not sure if it's going to come down or not. But I've got my phone ready to log in if we need to, if this runs out of battery.
Yeah, if it all goes wrong, I can sort of fill in for a minute and we can go down the phone route. It's all good. We'll be fine.
I'll keep my eye on it. I can't hardly see you because I've turned the brightness down.
That's probably for the best. But no, I mean, we've finally got this done. I mean, as I mentioned, we did an Instagram chat, the best part of 3 years ago. And quite a lot's gone on since then. But we've been talking about doing
the first ones on here, mustn't I?
I think you were sort of 3rd or 4th, I think.
Yeah.
I think you got beaten to it by the Gravitz, I think, but
yeah. I think where was I? I was in the camper at Donington, wasn't I?
You were at Donington ahead of it was 2020 ahead of the late COVID season. You were up there, so
I mean that was weird because one of my best friends tonight sent me a picture of when we won the Jack Sears in 2020, and we've all got the masks on and stuff, and. It was crazy when I think back. That it sort of jogged my memory, and I think back to it, and it was just madness. How we run touring car that year with no one there. It was just so weird.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're going to get into that because it was a heck of a season for all you guys inside the ropes. But it feels a bit odd that we that we went through it all, doesn't it? I mean, obviously, not everyone came out of it, which was horrible, but it's good that we're, that some of us are still here. And it's good that we finally got this sorted, because we were talking about this at Media Day last year, weren't we? And it's
yeah, we meant to do it, but obviously you've had some more high-profile guests than me, mate. So
I don't know. It depends which way you look at things, you know. It depends, but no, thanks very much for coming on. It's sort of great that we've finally got this sorted. Just say hello to the folks in the comment section. We've got loads already. Oliver Taylor, Stephen Sherwood, Matthew Clark, Defan Evans, evening. Tracy Hickley, good. Oh, she said she'd tune in. That's good. Lee Hancock's in. Kay Warren, everyone else, thank you very much. If you've got any questions or comments, do put them in. Keep them clean. You don't have to, but I won't read them out if they're not. So
I'm trying to work out what we're doing it, because I've got my phone on the Twitter page in case there's any comments that come in. But
no worries.
I'll leave that down to you. You're the professional.
Well, I'm in charge. I don't know if it's professional. But no, this is all good. So thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. John Francis just tuned in. Thanks very much. Gonna have a good chat. Obviously, we've got a bit more to talk about than the last time we had a chat, and which is good. But for those of you who sort of don't maybe know your background, I mean, how did your interest in motorsport start?
Well, I'm really looking forward to coming on this show in particular, because it always starts from grassroots, doesn't it, with your show, and you go through literally everything. And I think, a lot of people know my story from snippets and bits and pieces. But if when we talk about this, you'll see how short and how my career's just gone from strength to strength to strength over such a short period of time. And a lot of people, when I talk to sponsors and stuff like that, and that's the reason they like the story more than than what we're doing. So it's definitely helped me just the way I've got to where I've got to today. So that's why I was looking forward to, and especially with you, who goes into all of the history and all the stats and everything else. So
I mean, I think some people might find that annoying, but I'm just a fan and a nerd, and I love, because basically this is what I've always said. We can all see what goes on the track, and we've all, even with the older guys that we've had on, we've all seen the footage on YouTube or VHS if you're old enough like me. But we don't know the stories behind, how they got to where they were, all the little funny stories and all the things like that. And I think that's what makes it, I don't know, it just sort of brings it all together, I think. So that's why I like to do all the history and all the other stuff.
Well, I mean, starting from the very beginning, I mean, I've grown up in a family. My dad was a massive, motorsport fan, and so my granddad. And I just remember growing up as a kid and Formula One always being on the TV, and Senna, and it was always a big thing in my house. And we sort of just grew up, and I just naturally loved motorsport as a kid, just watching it. And then it sort of developed in. My brother, he had a go at it, like doing go-karting and bits and pieces, and my mum and dad put a load of money into that sort of thing. And I've got 4 older brothers, you know what I mean? So we're quite a large family, and there weren't enough money for everyone to go racing or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? So it was a bit like that. That was how the story first started. So I just naturally thought, oh well, I'm enjoying watching, and that's about it really. And then I remember I went to a few touring car races, and watched all the boys and that. And I went to one race when is that your end? Is that so
I watched doing the dinner, and I think she's left. I don't think she's put the extractor hood on.
I wouldn't be looking forward to eating that, mate.
I've had mine.
And
sorry, go on.
I remember, and then I was actually at the race when Henry Surtees got killed at Brands Hatch. Me and my dad were there, and we were there just as guests of a company, I think, because we had a plumbing and heating company at the time, and bits and pieces. And but I remember like proper into it. And I was sitting at a bar in Turkey. So we had a villa out there, and I was sitting there, and I always go. I lived out there for 7 months, and I always went down to the sports bar, and all the lads all knew me and all that sort of stuff. And it was, any time, every weekend, Formula One, touring car, I used to sit there, drink myself silly, watching the, in the sun, watching the racing. I still do that now. To be fair, we did that last week at the Monaco Grand Prix when we was out in Spain. But no. And then I remember sitting at the bar, and we were watching Shedden versus Matt Neal at the time, and I said to my mate behind the bar, "Do you know what? I fancy having a go at that touring car." And he was like, "Yeah, like as you do." Like, I never even raced a car. I never went go-karting. I'd never done anything. Like, I was like, "Oh, I fancy that." And it was a throwaway comment at the time, but it's so weird because that's the first memory about me watching touring car, thinking I'd love to have a go at that. Do you know what I mean? So that's where it started off, and then I came back, and I ended up going go-karting up at Buckmore Park with all like my mates and stuff like that. And I won it. I won like the race by a mile, and I was always pretty handy. When I went like stag do's and stuff, I always used to win like by a mile and that stuff. I used to just be like, yeah, pretty good, but just didn't think anything of it.
You sort of just like a bit of fun type thing.
Yeah, 100%. And then I went. I started my own business, and then I started having a bit more money, like at the end of the month. So it was like 120 quid, 100 at the time or whatever a month. And it was a thing called the Iron Man Championship and the Man of Steel Championship or whatever. And it's weird because I look at some lads now, like Piers Pryor from F4 and stuff like that. He was my teammate. We'd done a lot of endurance hire kart racing that year as well. So we were doing like 6 hour, Sodi 6 hour, Sodi 2 hour events and stuff like that. So I'd done that for like a year, just start paying and just jumping in with doing a bit of endurance racing and stuff like that. And then the following year, I'd done the Man of Steel thing, or what, like championship up at Buckmore at the time. So it was like 8 races or whatever, and I won pretty much all of the races, and then I got the entry into the Sodi World Finals out in Paris, obviously because Buckmore qualified as one of the World Championship places. So
yeah, because it's a top circuit, isn't it? It was top circuit.
Yeah, and it was mega.
All the top guys cut their teeth there, didn't they?
Yeah. And I went out there, and there was a team of 3 or 4 of us, me and Piers was pretty good as a go-kart driver, and he basically, but he was like 55, 60 kilo, not even that, probably 55 kilo tops, and I was about 82 kilo at the time. And obviously you got to remember I'm a lot older than him, and we went out to the finals, and he was always probably the quicker driver at Buckmore because the elevations and stuff like that. And but I knew that I would probably be quicker once we get on flat track with the cars all waiting the same. So I was looking forward to that. So we went out there and we said, right, whoever's fastest in practice gets to like race first, qualify basically, because it was like a Formula One free qualifying session. So gone out there, everyone waited up, and I'd done him by about half a second
really?
down this track. So they said, right, you're in for qualifying, and it was mad. Like, it was mad. We were all out there, and like Dubai and people like that were flowing in, and they all had people massaging and all the garages set up and all that. We turned up with a epoxy kettle and one of them pop-out benches. Like, and I'm like, what was going on here? Like, they're all like dripping in all their kit and stuff. We've got like shit Sparko thing. I'm sorry.
No, we've had worse. Don't worry.
And
we had Jerry Marnie on. Don't worry.
And so that was quite funny. And then come qualifying, I've gone bang P1 in the first session straight through. And the Italians were so quick. They're just like, I can't believe how fast they were. They were mega. And it was all about just getting in the toe behind it and getting through. But I ended up qualifying like 3rd or 4th or something like that. And it was a 12-hour race. So we thought, we've got a good chance here. And we were definitely the highest that England have ever been in the Sodi World Finals, and it was good. And then we come back from there, and And then John Surtees asked me if I would race in the Henry Surtees Foundation. But prior to that, obviously doing well in Sodi and stuff, I'd seen a competition called Want to Race with a guy called Ben Highland, and I'd entered it, and I'd gone. You have to do stages, and then you get to like the final, and then you do like press interviews, and you also, and the coaches were Tom Oliphant, Jake Hill, Paul O'Neill, Pittard. Who else was there? So all these boys, I knew Jake anyway from
those names ring a bell from somewhere. I don't know.
So, and you got to remember little old me turning up like, oh, you're right, how are you? Yeah, can I jump in the Ginetta? And I've got to like take them round. So I made it to the final, and we've all gone up to Brighton. It turns out like I didn't win. A guy called Bon To won it that year, and it's a fully funded drive in a Ginetta and all this sort of stuff. And anyway, I was happy that I got to the final. Thought, never raced a car on a track. That was my first time. And I remember Tom Oliphant. It was so funny because. He's gonna hate this when he sees this, but we were all up there, and I was out there watching the instructors go around warming the cars up. Next thing I see Oliphant just ping off the track. He's gone flying. It's like a bit greasy. He's gone off the track. He's on the grass. He's gone a country mile off the track. There's this massive grass bank. He's hit this bank, and the car's on top of this bank, right? So I grabbed I went, Ben, one of your instructors has just put it off over there. Jake, Paul O'Neill, everyone, they're all pissing themselves laughing. He's like stuck on this bank somewhere. You can imagine if it was me now, it would have been blasted everywhere across social media. But he didn't get away with it, so we gave him a good ribbon anyway. Well, their boys did anyway. But I was obviously on my best behaviour, so we didn't talk about it to Tom at the time. Otherwise, he'd have just crossed you off the list, like, because he was so embarrassed. But no, that was quite funny. And then anyway, yeah. So I didn't win that. So then the following week was the Henry Surtees Foundation. So I just thought, yeah, do you know what, Buckmore Park, I'll pitch up there. So I know the track. It was Club 100s as well. So I thought, my weight at the time, 80 odd kilos, would have been all right because they're a bit quicker than the Sodi carts. And I thought, yeah, let's have a go at it. And I remember I had a little van at the time, and I drove up there on my own. My wife went to me, yeah, you should do it. It'd be good fun and all this. She spoke me into it. It cost me. I think it was a couple of £100 to enter or whatever. So I said, yeah, all right. I remember like going up there, just milling about. Didn't know anyone. Like, and there's all these like now I found out who they all are. Like, it's, like Ben Barnacle and. Ross Gunn, Bradshaw, wow. There was Jake Hughes, Jack Aiken, wow. Like proper drivers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
All turned up.
On the single seat at the time, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and Ben Green, he was there. So there was all guys that were like, next level. They were all coming through. Do you know what I mean? And me. So I've turned up, and the qualifying was in the Sodi carts. So there was 25 of us. I qualified 21st or 23rd out of 25. I went back to my van and thinking, do I just do one and get out of here? Like, do I just drive off? Like, just don't turn up. Like, it's like horrendous. And,
slip out the side door.
Yeah, I just thought, oh look, no one to know. I'll just go. Like, and then my wife turned up with the kids, and I thought, oh, do you know what? Like, it's just a laugh. Like, I've never been that far back at Buckmore Park, so I was thinking, no way. But then I looked at it and I thought, yeah, they've all been quick over like one lap. And obviously, with the weight, I thought, so I jumped in the Club 100s. And to be fair, I got lucky because I had a rocket ship of a cart, to be honest. It was, when you get one and it's just about to blow up, but they're like a rocket before they blow up. Yeah. So I got one of them ones. So I started at the back and I was thinking, right, here we go. So we've come up, rolling start. I've just literally planted it. I've just loaded everyone up to the first corner. I was like flat out. Everyone was like braking, trying to slow the car down. I made 10 places on the first lap where everyone was just like flying off the track.
Jeez.
And then before you know it, I was like, I could see the leaders and I was thinking, right, here we go, boys. And it was so weird. They were just like, it was like follow my leader. They was all just driving around bumper to bumper. And I thought, sod this. So I was just going like one after another. I got to like second to last lap or whatever, and I was like P3, and I could see Bradshaw, and I think it was Barnacle who was second, and ITV and that were there. Steve Ryder was there. Do you know what I mean? The commentators are going mad. It was like I've driven from 23rd on up to, and I come across the line, and I ended up winning. I won the heavyweights overall. I got fastest lap of the event, and I come second to Bradshaw over the whole event. So and that from that day, it was just so weird because, you know, I celebrated like I did at my first ever touring car race when I lost it. But I was so happy. I got out my kids there. Like, we didn't even know what was going on. Like everyone was like, what? Like, coming over to me. They didn't have a clue who I was. Like, giving me a pat on the back, and it was like I won. It was like I won the whole thing. Do you know what I mean? And Steve Ryder come over to me first time I met him, and I was like, you know, Steve Ryder off the telly, you know, like,
Wow.
Yeah, it was all a bit mad, and it was mad that I even was there with John Surtees. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was always a legend in my house growing up, and
absolutely.
And so we all sat around the table, and it was the top 8 got prizes, and they were like serious prizes, like 4-day testing Maranello with Ferrari, and you know, testing Jerez with Carlin, and all big stuff for these hot drivers that were going to be Formula One. You know, like, I mean, Jack Aitken made it there with Williams, and basically I sat there, and obviously I got second choice to Bradshaw, and I just said, look, boys, I said, look, all you, like, you know, like 14, 15, I'm like 30 or whatever. I said, you boys are going to go Formula One. Like, look, you pick the prizes, I'll have whatever's left.
Wow.
So
brilliant.
Me doing that, you know, just being sort of unselfish. Like John Surtees to man was like, do you know what? That's the most unselfish thing I've seen in a long time. And I ended up with a 3-hour test in the simulator at Red Bull with David Coulthard's engineer and all this sort of stuff at the time.
That isn't bad, is it?
No, and a big factory tour, and then Surtees gave me all of my he gave me loads of stuff. Gave me my 2017 crash helmet. He gave me all my Puma overalls, underwear, boots, gloves. Just gave me everything, and that weren't even in the prize. He just done that because I sort of said, like, yeah, like, I have the prize. So
because you did that nice thing, you did it the right way.
And then from then he was like, what cars do you race then? I was like, I don't. I just done the Sony thing, and like, you know, and he was amazed by it. And then so I made a few phone calls to Ben from Want to Race after I'd won that. So I come away with the free Henry Surtees trophies. Have you seen them? The blue H's. I've still got them upstairs. Like, they're like, brilliant. They're so precious to me, them, because I always looked at them trophies when people were winning them, like, and they're amazing. And I came away with 3 of them, you know. Fantastic. And it was incredible to walk away from that event with them with doing that. And then John Surtees had spoke to a couple of people, and then I'd spoke to a couple of people, and then Ben Hyland ran me back from Want to Race and basically said to me, he was like, look, I've got a drive for you. It's normally about 90 grand. I can do it because I want you in the car for 30. We've seen you at the Want to Race thing. You know, you got to the final. And so, but he said, I need to know by Saturday, and this was Tuesday. So I was like,
easy.
Oh, okay. So I didn't have any money, that sort of money at the time. And I remember there was a rep called Paul Whitnell, who's a big part of my racing career as well, who has been a big part of my career. And he was sitting in my office, and he said, why don't you give my boss a bell? He's into his cars. So I picked up the phone. His name is Vince Caldicott, and didn't know him. And I said, oh, you right, Vince? I said, I've got one of your reps in here. I said, any chance I can come see you? I said, I'm into motorsport. I've got a good opportunity. Can I come see you? He said, yeah, come down now. He said, and he lives in Brighton. I live in Broadstairs. It's a 2-hour drive.
Okay.
And I said, look, I'll tell you what, it's 5 o'clock. I said, I'll come down. I'll be there for 8 o'clock in the morning. He said, yeah, all right. So I've gone down to his house. Didn't know this fella. Nicest bloke in the world I've ever met, ever. And everyone who knows me, who knows Vince, would back it up. And he took me into his house, made me a cup of tea. He said, "Oh, what have you done?" I showed him, like, I printed off some of the stuff off the internet about the Henry Curtis thing. It was just like, that's what I've done. And he said, "Do you know what? I've got a really good feeling about you." And he said, I'm going to back you. He said, I'm going to put you in the car. I'll give you the 30 grand. And he said, but I don't want to hire the car. I want to buy it. And he said, I want to put it next to this. He opened his door, had an original AC Cobra in his garage. And I was like, oh my God, like, is this weird or what? And he's a massive Christian. He's right into the church, believes in God and that. And he's just been like, he has been like my guardian angel since the day I met him. Do you know what I mean? And he's like, he's a proper guy. So anyway, we'll move on from that because I could go on about Vince all day.
No, that's fine.
But basically, he backed me, and then that got us into Ginetta's in 2017.
Wow, that's amazing.
Into the GRDC Plus at the time, because there was a thing called GRDC, and then there was GRDC Plus. And the year before I went in, there was a guy called Phil Ingram, and he had won GRDC. He won 8 races, 8 pole positions, and 8 fastest laps. But then he moved up because he won the Want to Race competition the year before.
Right.
But then he went from GRDC to GRDC Plus. So everyone thought this guy's the real deal. But they put me straight in against him.
Wow.
It was me versus him.
That's pretty. I mean, just to go over this. I mean, for those watching, you might another time scale on this. I mean, all the casting and the Henry Surtees, John Surtees thing. This was all what 2015 ish.
2016 the karting and the Surtees.
7 years.
Yeah, coming up.
Yeah, 6.5 years.
Yeah, coming up.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and then 17 was my first ever year in car racing.
Wow. Just quickly before we go on, I've got a little nerd fact here. I think it's a fact. You mentioned about the Cobra, the Shelby thing. It's because of that car that we've got a speed limit on the motorways.
Yeah,
because they did the test at night, didn't they?
I'm not surprised. He took me to Goodwood in it, and it was oh my God, it was unbelievable. When Carol Shelby got involved with the Cobra company or the AC company, they want to see how fast they could get it. So it was like the M1 about 1:30 in the morning, and they ragged it up to about 160, and then news broke and they said, right, we're not having this. So they put a speed limit. So there you go. Well, this one was one of the last 66, I think, off the top of my head. It was the last Shelby chassis that they'd done. He's one. Or something like that. I can't remember, but you have to speak to Vince. But it's a great car.
Yeah, proper job. I just want to say hello to Mike Wilds, who's just tuned in. Evening, Mike. He came on. Fantastic chat just last week, and he was asking what the first car you drove was, and so he's just said, it was Ginetta's. So
the Ginetta G40. It was the one with the H pattern gearbox. Was my first race car. It was a good year. I mean, Tom Oliphant was my driver coach.
Was that a good thing after what happened? Was it?
Yeah. So Ben put me in the car and sent me away to Guadix in Spain for a 2-day test before the season would start. And obviously that was my first. I think Vince bought the car, and we turned up at Snetterton. I remember this. We turned up with my first ever test in a race car, and it's pulled up brand new on the trailer. And I look at it, gone to sleep, and now all my family are there, like Jodie and my mum and dad, and everyone's there. And then next day I woke up, it was like monsoon at Snetterton, right? And I'm like, yeah. So he's just jump in, they've strapped me in. I'm like, what is going on here? Like, never been like strapped so tight in. I'm like, what is, like, I didn't really have a clue what was going on. So he sent me out. He's left me out there for like 15, 20 minutes. I'm driving around, and I'll come in the pits, and Ben's open door, and how is it? I went, yeah, it's fine. It's like, easy. This is like, but don't worry about it. It's like a piece of piss, basically. Yeah. And he's gone, are you sure? And I'm telling you, it was torrential rain. And I was probably the only car literally lapping because it was that bad, right? And I was like, yeah. He went, any moments? No, nothing. He went, right, you jump in the passenger seat. I'm going to jump in with you. And gone out, mate. I'm literally hanging on. I'm like, what? He's coming to the
head against the
It was like, were you driving like that? And I was like, was I hell? Like, as if I was driving like, he went, no, I need you to drive like that. And I was like, as if I'm doing that. I was like, you're mental. Like, and I was like, obviously I was just driving around the track like Miss Daisy. And then I realised, obviously, I needed to push the limit. So then I went back out. And so that was good. That day I learned quite a bit in the wet. And then the following week, they sent me to Spain for this 2-day test. And sent Tom Oliphant out as my driver coach. And it was funny because I just picked up to drive this car really well. Like, I just got to grips with it, grabbed it straight away. And then Tom sort of jumped in and went a bit quicker. And then I jumped in and went a bit quicker than him. And then he was sort of like, was going like this. And then, but I learned, and this other guy that was there was showing me how to heel and toe. So I was practicing that the whole time. But Tom Oliphant can't heel and toe. Just doesn't like it, can't get on with it. So I'm going into these corners, a bit of heel and toe and all that. And the second day, so he's now gone set a time, and I've just gone bang, set a time. And he's been out there banging around, can't beat my time. And then all of a sudden he pops it in, and then I beat him again. So I've ended up coming back quicker than Tom Oliphant because I could heel and toe, and he couldn't stop it quick enough. But I ended up coming back quicker than him, and then they were like, wow, like this is like good for the championship. And we pitched up at Alton Park, was the first round. Phil Ingram's there, and he was being backed by a guy called David Holloway. Do you know David Holloway? Raced the Aston Martin British GT.
Yeah.
And he's done a lot in Dubai and that, but he's a very good guy. But he bought these two Ginettas G40s, had them all done in the purple liveries, and he paid for Ingram to do the round, and so Ingram would driver coach him to get him better. But so they were teammates basically. Right. So Ingram was quick, and we pitched up at Alton Park. I stuck it on pole by 7/10 and just blew his head off. But, that's like my first ever.
That's a lifetime on
race.
that.
Yeah,
that's a lifetime, isn't it? 7/10. That's a long.
And it was amazing. It was on a British GT weekend. It was like, you know, it was amazing to go to Alton Park, and that might be my first ever race, and put it on pole, and I ended up winning the races that weekend. And just came away and ended up going on to win the championship in 17 that year, and beat Ingram. It was a good battle most of the year. It was head to head. I think he had to miss one of the rounds because he's a Jaguar Formula E engineer.
Right.
So he had to miss one of the rounds, but I think even with that, I think I would have still won it because it was just me and him. We were just out front. It was just us two, and it was my best ever overtake. Was under the bridge at Snetterton. I went round the outside and then done him on the inside and forced him off. He weren't very happy with that one, but it was a good move. We went to the stewards and I got away with it. So and then I ended up winning the championship in 17, and that was just, and it's just gone from there. And Vince said to me, all the time you're winning, then I'm going to back you, and that's what happened.
Wow. I mean, to go in, just to sort of backtrack to that first round, I mean, to go in, to take pole by that margin, I mean, obviously you've got the backing, so you think, okay, I've got something going on here, and I can maybe see it. I mean, did you have any expectations or any sort of
honestly
thoughts about where you might be?
They interviewed me before the race, and I said, if I can get in the top 10, that was where I thought I'd be. I thought I'd be top 10. Like that would have been really good. I think there was a 24 car grid or something like that, and a lot of the guys that I raced that year are still doing like the GTE thing now. So I mean, it was just great. And it was enjoyable to race. You know, like I'll be honest, as my racing's gone on, it's got less enjoyable. When I raced in 17 and 18, it was just fun. It was great. It was. You know, we were winning, but we were amateurs. You know, and it was good. And then as it gets more serious, it's the fun seems to come out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Well, I mean, take it to the the greatest of a generation. You know, take it to Ayrton Senna. I mean, when he was asked, he said, "What was the most enjoyable racing you ever did?" And he said it was the grassroots, the karting with Terry Fullerton and all that, because it was just fun, and there was no politics and all the other stuff that goes on. But yeah.
We'll get to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, we'll come to it. Don't worry about that. So I'll say quick a few hellos. Kevin Whitewood, British Touring Car Chat. Evening, Kev.
Yeah, I love Kev. He's
Yeah,
always
he's good
been
lad.
he's always been a massive supporter of mine, which is
He's a good
or,
lad.
or should I say I'm a supporter of his, because he always says I ask him for a selfie. So
I've seen that. Yeah. Which way around is it? No, don't.
I do actually genuinely ask him for a selfie every time, because his camera's so good, it makes me look really good. Every picture he takes, it looks really good. I think he's got this filter on there.
Happy days.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Love to get one. And also, I was going to say hello to my dad who's tuned in. My dad's on holiday in Turkey. Evening, Dad.
Legend. Yeah,
Half
what
past
are they,
10 at night. He said,
ahead,
can't
2
get
hours
away
ahead?
from you. He said, can't get away from you even when I'm on holiday. So hello, Dad. Hope you're enjoying your holiday.
What's his name?
Derek.
Derek. Big Derek.
Yeah. So I think Mum's gone to bed. It's 10:30 there. Anyway,
Yeah.
I digress. We'll catch up.
Where are they in Turkey?
Sorry?
Where are they in Turkey?
Dalian. Almost forgot there.
Oh, yeah. It's near the
Dalian,
airport. Yeah, it's not too far.
It's their annual trip. They go there. So, yeah, good stuff. Yeah. I hope it rains. Anyway. Digress. Oh, Oliver Taylor. Hello, Dad. Oh, yes, good, wonderful. Right. So you've got that first season. You've won the championship. Obviously, there's nothing more to do in the championship. I mean, was it just a case of the natural thing from then on is just to move up and see if you can?
We all sat down, and unfortunately, John Surtees died in the November that year, and which was a big shame. And I'd love him to seen us go on, and I still speak to Richard and Leonora from Buckmore Park, who have taken over there, and they're doing a mega job there. I'm down to 2%, but I'll get this ready just in case. But
get the phone ready. We'll be fine.
And I'll wait until it cuts out, and then I'll add it back in.
Yeah, no worries. I'll just fill in. No problem.
So yes, that was a great shame, and then so basically we all sat down and said, well, what do we do now? And the natural progression was GT5.
Yeah.
But we were getting more interest from sponsors. Obviously, it was my first. We've done a good job on social media at that time, and a lot of sponsors were quite interested, and they were like, "Well, let's step it up a level. Let's go Toka package. Just get on ITV." And I've gone from 100 horsepower Ginetta to a 400 horsepower G50 55. And
that must have been a heck of a jump.
Yeah, and Want to Race at the time weren't keen on running a GT4 car. They only done GT5, so they wanted me to stand in GT5s. But then Nathan Freak, who I've got to say is probably one of the nicest people I've met in motorsport, and him and Stuart Parker are the two guys that we'll get on to Stuart later. But Nathan Freak sort of is the most fairest, genuine guy I've met to date, pretty much in motorsport, because he's just, and he come along and said, "Look, Mike, that's the cost. That's what I want to earn. That's what it is for the season to do it with us." And at the time they were winning with Ben Green in Century. He was doing very well in the car and all that, and they Century always were up there in GT4 Super Cup. So it just seemed the right move to do. And, on the Toka package, we managed to generate more sponsorship and bits and pieces. And again, turned up at the first round at Brands Hatch, put it on pole, won all 3 races in my first Super Cup. And I was genuinely rapid in that 55. I mean, I remember one part of the season, it sort of progressed and we were quick, and Harry King was racing for Elite at the time in the Super Cup. And but wherever I qualified, I always had to start first of the AMs. So like even if I put it 6th, 7th on the grid or whatever, I had to start like 14th, because there was like 28, 30 cars or whatever. And
the pros were at the front, and
and it was me versus Colin White and Jack Minshaw. They were us 3 were the ones that were going for the championship pretty much. And then and then I think there was Cole Boardley, Harry King. There was, who else was there? I think there was a couple of other people in the pros, and we done a bit of testing. We clicked with the car straight away with the Ginetta. It was a great car to drive, the 55, and like I say, I ended up winning. I think I won like 19 out of 23 races or something like that year in 2018. But one particular round was Alton Park, and I've gone now, and I was all right in practice. I was pretty quick, and I felt the car was quite good. Come qualifying, bolted on the new set of tyres, and I've gone bang, out qualified. I've qualified pole. Well, I think it was me. Then Harry King was second fastest.
Wow.
And Janetta have come round and said, "You've got to sort of like take a chill pill here, Mike, because we're going to make you a pro." And I said, "Oh no, it's just a really good lap." Obviously, like showed them the data. All the other laps were like, you know, like where I should have been, but it just pulled a lap out of the bag. I just got it right. Do you know what I mean? And I stuck it like quicker than Harry, I think, or he might have been quicker than me, but it was like really close. I think I was 1 or 2, but even on the front row of the pros, and I'm meant to be the AM. Do you know what I mean? So. And he was a young lad, just came up from Jeanette Junior. So me and him just hit it off. We were in 2 different teams, didn't even know each other. We'd done a bit of media training with Louise Goodman, and I was always the first one up in the camera, and he was the one in the back. And I sort of stuck my arm around him and said, "Come on, son, like you're that good. We've got to get you used to this." And he still remembers that to this day. But so I went on to win that championship quite comfortably in the end. It was me and Colin White. Sort of Jack fell off towards the end a little bit, I think, and it was a real good season. And Century just was so good. I had a mechanic that I still see now. See him on the weekend, Tom. He was brilliant. He was so stickler for the floor. He used to take all the floors off the Janettas and re-glue them. And he used to look underneath it, and it would be like perfectly flat. And he was so proud of that. And and it was little things like that we went on to be so successful in the AMs. And then we got to the end of 18, and we're like, right, what do we do now? So do we step up to pro and have another year in Super Cup? Or like, what do we do? And then we went and had a meeting with Dick Bennett at BMW.
Wow!
And it was just obviously to go and meet Dick. It was crazy. And
but I mean, obviously he's a legend, you know, and he's launched Ayrton Senna and Mika Hakkinen and all these guys, you know, Barrichello and all Christian Fittipaldi. But he's such a lovely guy, isn't he? He's so down to earth and just open. And
honestly, he's
absolutely. I mean, we had him on a couple of years ago, and he was brilliant.
He's so good. He's so good. And but at the time, I had a sponsor called DDS Demolition, and Wes Ray, who owns that, he's good friends with Rob Collard. So we'd finished the race, and he was sponsoring me in 2018, and he then took me over to the pit lanes to meet Rob Collard, who was racing the 1 Series at the time. And I just won the championship, and Dick said, "Look, what are you thinking?" We said, "Well, all my sponsors want us to go touring car because you're the main event, and they've seen us racing this year, and you know, you guys are the main event." And he said, I've seen you race, and I think Rob had mentioned it to him that it's one of his mates who was racing, and he's watched a couple of rounds throughout the year or whatever, and he was like, "Come and have a chat with us." So I've turned up at his offices, and it was just incredible. Went in there, and I've still got the pictures on my phone, and I've gone to the toilet. I have a sneak picture of it. He's gone to the toilet. I've like taking pictures of his crash helmet cabinet with Senna and all of this sort of stuff, and Fittipaldi, Hakkinen, all of these helmets that are like all personally to him, you know.
Yeah.
What I mean? And then you walk through the lobby, and it's got Jonathan Palmer's Formula One car or F4 car or whatever in the lobby, and it was just incredible. And the thought that I was actually going to join. As they were going to develop me as a driver with Turkington and Collard, was just mad. It was madness. And then we sat down, and David was there, the commercial director of WSR, and Dick, and we've gone through it, and we looked at every scenario of how we could do it, and we were going to do it. And then Dick pretty much gave us a life lesson. He said, "I'll tell you what, Mike," he said, "find your feet in touring car," because I think we had an offer from Team Hard with Tony Gilliman. Rang me. I was in Spain, and he rang me and said, "Oh, hi, I'm Tony. We've heard that you're looking at touring car. Like, do you want to come and have a chat?" And I said, "Well, I'm actually got a chat with Dick Bennett next week, but I'll let you know how it goes." So we told Dick, and Dick said, "Do you know what?" He said, "Team Hard are such a good team to provide the groundwork for this championship. And he said, you know, with some of the people that they brought through the ranks at the time, you got to remember this is back in 2019 now, and Team Hard were becoming strength to strength, but they weren't, you know, as big as people like WSR and Halford's Honda Dynamics. And so he said to me, he went, do you know what? Go to Team Hard, learn the media, get your face out there, learn the fans. Learn how touring car works, because it's a completely different level to what you're used to as an amateur.
Sure.
And then come back and have a chat with us in 2020. And I said, okay. So off I went, and we done a deal with Team Hard and Tony Gillam, and you know, the rest is history, as it were. And it was amazing, like, you know, to Tony just got me going and got me up to speed, and we was in the Passat, and they sent me out my first test in the touring car, and we went up to Knock Hill, and it was dry, and they put wets on it, and I was like, why are they putting wets on it?
What are you doing?
With like slicks, and they were like, no, trust me, you need to go out and learn the car before you start throwing slicks on. Like, it was cold to be honest, but I was thinking, and they might get me off here or what, like putting me on wets, and
yeah,
and then it was a few laps, and then we straight on the slicks, and yeah, wow, what an experience that was to drive my first touring car around Knock Hill. It was incredible experience, and I'll never forget that. And you know, I know the Passat had probably had its day when I was in it in 19, but it's some of my most fond memories is in that car. And you know, for instance, I'm sitting there for round one, Brands Hatch, Bobby Thompson's my teammate, Jack Goff's my teammate, and Cole Boardley was my teammate. And
it's obviously your home circuit as well.
Yeah, a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
All my sponsors are there. Everybody, I sold 300 tickets, I think, to all my mates and stuff. And I'm sitting there, and I'm in the truck, and Bobby went, "Yeah, Mike, you're going to be fine. You'll be fine." Like, I think I qualified 23rd. I think, 29 or 28 or something. And he went, "You're going to be fine." My first ever race, I came 18th. I was like, 18th? Like, I'd love to get 18th. Like, and it was a big thing about beating Bobby, and all my brothers and that all like, yeah, you got to beat Bobby. He come 18th in his first. So that was my target. Like, but obviously, I didn't think I would ever, you know, to score 1 point was my goal all year. Like, even if I could get in the top 20, would have been where I was at, you know.
Yeah.
And then I've come round to the grid, and it started pouring down with rain. It poured down just as I'd come to the grid. And I remember looking over the pit wall, and a lot of cars were going around on wets to the thing. And all I thought was, well, I've done a bit of go-kart, and I've always been on hire kart slicks in the wet, so it can't be that different. So I went on the radio, and I've never even had a radio at this point. So like, this is all new, like learning and speaking to my engineer.
Yeah, gotcha.
And Richard was my engineer at the time, and he's a lovely old guy. And I said to Richard, I went, look, I said, it looks dry out the back. There's a dry line. And he went, are you sure, Mike? I went, yeah. I said, I've looked at the track before I got in. I said, I want to go round on slicks to the grid. And then I'll report back if it's too dangerous. I'll take it easy. So I've gone round my first sighting lap. And it was, I could see a dry line. And I was thinking, why is everyone on wets? And I just said, no, it's fine. Let's stay on the slicks. And they were like, just stay on the track. And I said, okay, all right. And they said, it'll come back to you. If you just stay on the track, it'll come back to you. Mark Blundell was lined up next to me, Formula One driver. And I'm like,
that must have been amazing.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, I'm like sitting on the grid, like, my nerves are going through the roof. I'm like, what is going on? I've got slicks on, it's wet. And I'm going to start my first touring car race. And I remember we set off, and I mean, it was like tiptoeing. All the cars were going, and I think I was like second or third to last, because Blundell was on slicks as well, and someone else went on slicks. And I remember I was ahead of them, but we were quite far back. And then all of a sudden, I just felt the grip coming, like, And I thought, right, just get some heat. And they were like, get heat in the tyres. That's the main thing. And I was like, yeah. So I was just felt it, and I was really forcing the heat in. And then before you know it, I was just picking one after another. And I remember coming out the straight.
I remember watching it, I thinking, who's this guy?
Yeah, and I came down the straight, and I'd done Plato, come around clearways.
As you do, you know.
I got on the inside, and I was like, oh my god, I just done Plato. I didn't know where I was. And then in front of me, I could see Turkington and I don't know who it was. Anyway, I see Turkington. So, and I've got a massive drive out of clearways. I've done Plato, and then I've done Turkington into paddock. I've got no idea. I've just done Colin Turkington. I was like fucking shouting down the radio. I just done Plato, and I was like giving them a running commentary while I was driving around, like overtaking all these people. And
I love it.
And I got to the end of the race, and the flag come out, and I was like, where am I? Because it was just like carnage, you can imagine, can't you?
Yeah.
And I could hear, like, they'd come on the radio. Richard Owen had pushed the radio, and I could hear everyone just screaming in the background over the radio. And he was like, "You're P12, you're P12." And with that, I just couldn't hold it. I had my foot out the door. I was dancing. That was just like, and then to pull up at the garage and everyone just see their faces, and it was just amazing. And like, that is one of my best experiences in my life, I think. And
that's incredible.
And the camera zoomed in on me, and from that moment, that's when the fans really started to engage, because they just saw a normal bloke do something amazing. And it was.
I was just about to say, that's when everyone became a fan of Michael Crees. Everyone just was just like, this guy's great. You know, he's finished 12th on his day, and he's just lost it. He's got,
even Anderson said he's celebrating like he's won the championship on the first race. And then that weekend, like, obviously Paul O'Neill done the Facebook Live on a Saturday, and like straight over to me. And obviously, for me, being in front of the camera is so natural, and being, and having a chat and a laugh and stuff. And the couple of the boys that work with Paul, the old 29 Productions, we had such a laugh, and we had such a crack on the Saturday night. ITV and Paul and that had said to me, "Do you want to do Facebook Live every week, Mike? Like, it's your first year in, and do you want to do Facebook Live with us every week?" And that's what just propelled me with all the fans. And went to Donington, and then I started doing the campsite stuff. And I remember like going out to the campsite, and people were like, "Who's that?" Like, I was like, "All right, how's it going?" They were like, "Who's that?" And then now I do it, and like everyone, I get like a massive following. But I remember the first time I used to go, "Oh, Michael Crees, I raced for Team Hardy in the British Touring Car." And they're like,
"Oh, really?"
And then obviously doing the Facebook Live stuff with Paul, that was mega, and that put me on the map a little bit, which helped me, because obviously everything I was doing was getting me more followers on social media, more activity, and that brought more sponsorship. And this is my biggest message to people coming into racing, is just keep yourself in the shop window and keep doing what I could to stay on the grid. And that was just keeping myself relevant. And then that year we went on to have a top 10 finish at Silverstone when Jack Goff won for Team Hard.
That's something that I wanted to come on to, because, I mean, what a day, obviously, for the team. And, and again, the tyres were a big thing, because it absolutely threw it down, didn't it? And it was all kinds of stuff going on, and cars spinning all over the show. And and obviously it was the first win for the team in the BTCC. But I remember Jack Goff saying that his window had fogged up, and he was driving through. He was looking through a little gap like that, a little bit that wasn't fogged.
Yeah.
Was yours the same? And two, either way, how difficult was it racing? It looked absolutely ridiculous.
I mean, the race before it rained halfway through, and I remember I just switched it on, and I went from like the back, over to row bottom. I was coming through the middle of the pack, and I felt like quite comfortable in them conditions really, and then that race, it was like the heavens opened, and yeah, remember the car weren't very good. It was raining more inside the car than it was outside the car, I think. And so the car was steaming up, and I was trying to do everything I possibly could to just see where I could go. But I remember I couldn't see anything, and I was using my wing mirror. So when I was looking at the corner of the car, as the curb would come, I was using the curb where the wing mirror touched the beginning of the curb to start braking and stuff like that. I remember it. It was crazy.
Wow.
Because I couldn't actually see where my braking points were. So I was just thinking, right, that's the start of the curb now. It's got to be nearly here. Like the corner's got to be nearly here. It was that bad, especially when you was following someone as well, because I just couldn't see anything. But me and Jason had another massive battle that weekend. Yeah. Oh, and sorry, heading back to Brands quickly. I remember race 2, because obviously I finished 12th in race 1, and race 2. Jason started behind me, so we've gone up to Druids, and he's hit me so hard. Right, my head's hit the back of the chair, and I've gone flying off. I went from 12th to 27th in one lap. I couldn't get back in the train, and I just couldn't get back in. And then Jason said to me after, he's like, "Welcome to touring car, mate." And I was like, obviously I was having the crack with him, but I remember. So then when we got to Silverstone, me and him were like really battling. I was like, we touched a few times, but it was fair. And he come past me, I got back past him, and he was in the Power Max car at the time. And of course, and I just didn't think anything of it. I came on the radio, said you P9 and all that. Came in the pits. I was so happy. Got a top 10 in my first year, and then next thing I know, I got this grab on the shoulder, and Jason spins me around, and he just gave me this massive cuddle, and someone was recording it, and they sent me the recording, and such a special moment, like we're jumping up and down, and he said to me, he was like, "Do you know what? That was a proper race." And he said, "Well done, mate." And like, he's the first person in that paddock to if you've done something right, he will tell you. If you've done something wrong, he will tell you. You know what I mean? And to get Jason Player, who was one of my idols, like watching the car, and for him to come over and say, like, "Mate, you've done a proper job there," that was mega.
That must have meant the world, yeah.
And then I ran up to the podium, and Jack's on the winning step, and the team are going mad. There's a first win, and it was a great place to be. And like them memories of 2019, I'd already succeeded my goals on race 1 at round 1 in race 1. And so it was just a big learning curve after that. And I think I engaged well with the media and the fans, and the marshals were a big thing for me always. And I'm there living my absolute dream, and I've been a fan watching the other side of the fence, and then now I'm actually doing it. It was all the things I was thinking about. What I wanted when I was a fan is what I gave to the fans that year. So the kids were coming along. I was getting them into the garage. I was sitting them in the cars. Like, my garage was busy every weekend because I was so accessible. But when I go to touring car now, I just think, you see the barriers across the front.
That's like disconnect, isn't there?
I just don't like it. Yeah, I just feel like the drivers need to be more accessible, even though they are. But I think the interaction. You get to see him on the sign-ins and stuff like that.
Oh, there you are. His tablet battery's gone. Hang on, he's got the phone. Look at that! Look, he's back straight away. Look at that. That was absolutely textbook.
I had it set up, ready to go.
I thought I was going to have to spam for a minute there. Hey, good man.
So, so basically it was, I just feel like touring car, I love the fact that Alan Gale brought in the reverse garages at Silverstone. So, so all the cars are on show. Do you know what I mean? And you get the odd drivers that are still really good with all the fans and stuff, and I get it, there's time to be professional, and there's a time to get your head down and stuff. And I get it, people in the zone, but, don't hurt to have 10 minutes out just to come out the front of the cars and speak to people with questions, or let the kids sit in the cars and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and, you say about the accessibility and the characters. I mean, it was like you, and then obviously Rick Parfitt came along, and he was a bit of a lunatic as well, and everyone loved him. But everyone likes those, characters like you guys who are just like, you just put yourselves out there. You engage. You get people G'd up. I remember when Rick retired at, was it Alton Park? And he was doing the wave in front of the crowd and getting them to cheer and all that. It just things like that, and you need characters like that. And obviously, with what you did in the first year, you said, exactly that. You saw it from the fan side. You were a fan who had gone racing essentially.
Yeah.
And I think that's why everyone took to you.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you talk to anyone from around that time, they'll all say that they miss the the live on the Saturday, the Facebook Live on the Saturday, because the racing came on the Sunday, but the fans loved seeing you and everyone else that was getting involved outside the cockpit, and that was fantastic for engagement, which is brilliant.
I think maybe one day that might be back. I spoke to Nick Halstead. He's trying to bring it back for ITV on a Saturday and stuff. So there is definitely talks of things happening in the future. But I'd love to bring it back, and I'd love to be part of it. And I think when I hang my helmet up, I think I'd love to get into ITV, doing the touring cars, doing something like Paul, follow what Paul's done really, and I'd love to get involved in that side of things, maybe commentary or whatever it is. But I think that's probably what I want to do when I finish.
Yeah, and I think it would be a big hit, whether it's in front of the camera or behind the mic or whatever it is. I think, you're the kind of guy that would do very well at that. I think a lot of people would love to see that. Just seen a thing from Dave Cox, known as Zeus. We know Dave. How you doing? We like him. He's a good lad. He says, when are you going to try the crazy carts that the guys have been doing in the last, that Nick Halstead did? Because that looks absolutely nuts.
Yeah, I've been there. I have been to both tracks that they've done it actually, but I've missed the timings. I've been doing something else or whatever, and I've missed getting down there. But I did speak to Nick, and Nick said to me that they're going to be doing a guest one soon. So I think I'll be in on that one, but I don't know when that's going to be or what. So.
Oh, that's got to be at Brown's, isn't it? It's got to be.
I would have thought so. Yeah.
Home advantage.
Pull in some ringers, maybe Plato, Matt Neal, or something like that. Mind you, I'd like to see Matt Neal in one. It'd be like a giraffe, wouldn't it?
It'd be like one of those guys on the little bikes, wouldn't he? One of those little. Yeah, I think that needs to happen just for that reason. We love Matt.
Mate, we're an hour in and we ain't only done half of.
No, it's all right. It's all right. No problem. Just go back to you saying that your garage was busy and all that. We've got like Jono Apps, Ethan Jono. He said that you've also got the busiest garage in the GT. You were the only one out in the rain, when he was out there doing all that, which is great.
Yeah. John's my personal trainer, so he's a bit angry at the minute. So I've been on more holidays than I have to the gym, to be honest. And I was meant to go there this morning, but something come up, and he's texting me, "Where are you?" and all this sort of stuff. So,
scandalous.
Sorry, John. No, I can tell I've had a few holidays. I need to lose some of this.
You'll make it back up. Don't worry, it's all good. Just one thing I do want to touch on, and I don't know how true this is. I don't know if it was Paul O'Neill that said it or if someone else, but it said in that first round at Brands Hatch, when you all come out the pit lane walkabout signing stuff, he said that you were going along getting the other drivers' signatures, some of them, because you were still a fan.
Yeah, that is true. Actually, it's quite funny because it was actually for a reason why I'd done it. But yeah, we got a few drivers' autographs, and because it was my first race, and we were doing some stuff for charity, for the mine charity and stuff. So it was funny though. Yeah, and David Addison even commented that on the first round, I think, because I overtook Mark Blundell up into Druids. He was like, "Yeah, we had to tell him that he's got to give the autographs and not go and get them." So yeah, that's a bit of banter.
No, brilliant. Just speaking about Blundell before we just move on to the next step was. You've got is that great photo of your door with Mark Blundell's tyre mark in it or wheel mark in it?
I still got it in my garage. Someone
You still
bought
got
it
it?
for me. Someone bought it for me as a Christmas present. One of my friends, Dave Gilbert,
Fantastic.
he bought it for me and sent it to me. I turned up and I've unwrapped it, and it's like a massive. I've got to get Mark to sign it actually.
I was just going to say, as he signed it, he needs to, didn't he?
Yeah, no, but I'd never really take it to a race, really.
Walking down the pit lane with it.
Yeah, look like right.
Yeah.
So,
I've actually got Jack Goff's front wing from the last round at Brands Hatch when he stuck it in thing. I've got that in the garage. Need to get Jack on it, get it signed. Yeah. No, good stuff. I mean, obviously, so you got your first season under your belt. And yeah, and as you say, it's sort of fond memories, and it's all gone really well, and on track and off track as well. Was there a plan to stay with Tony and with Team Hard, or was it a case of did you feel like you need to maybe move up a bit, eyes on the Jack Sears and that kind of a thing?
Well, yeah, I mean, I finished top rookie that year. I mean, obviously, there's not obviously there's the Jack Sears, but as the rookies go, I think there was 8 rookies that year. Rowbottom, me, Blundell, Patel, I think, was in there.
Yeah. Sam Osborne in there, was he?
Osborne. Yeah. Hamilton, I think, was his first year. Might be. I'm not sure. Anyway, there was eight of them, and I finished the top rookie over Rowbottom. It was out of me and him to finish. It was the top out of them. So I finished top there. And then it was literally looking at the options, and Dick Bennett's obviously I had a chat with Dick about going to BMW, but at the time I think it was Oliphant. Was it Oliphant, Turkington, and I think Jelly had signed for 2020, and the seats were full, and so that was pretty much we were negotiating, talking, and then I think Stephen basically said that he was going. They made a decision to stop the 1 Series with Parker and go to WSR, and Stephen done the deal straight away pretty much once they made the decision, and I hadn't got my eggs in a row by then, so
right.
Yeah, on that, and then I was talking to Adam Weaver about going as Plato's teammate, and
I remember you talking about that. You were like,
yeah, and I think it was like, yes, here we go. Like, I'm going to be Jason's teammate, and it got all the way up to Christmas, and the deal was done, and everything like that. And then he'd spoken to a Vauxhall or something, and there was a chance of having someone. I think it was like Matt Jackson or something like that, and they sort of wanted to have a 2 strong, like, experienced team.
like established.
Adam phoned me up and said, "Look, Mike, I don't think, like, a couple of sponsors. Obviously, you've only done 1 year and all this sort of stuff." And so it all fell out of bed between Christmas and New Year. So I put on my Instagram and Facebook, I put Happy New Year, but just to let everyone know I'm still available for a drive as my deal's falling through. And then on New Year's Day, Steve Dudman rang me up and said, I've seen your message. And we had 300 comments, I think, from the fans. And it was so busy, like my Facebook thing. And I had like 1,000 odd likes and comments, like, I hope you get a drive and all this sort of stuff. And Steve had seen that, and he'd rang me up and said, look, let's have a meeting. So me, Vince, Bert Taylor, and Steve Dudman met at the hotel at Brands Hatch, and we done the deal that day. We done the deal, and
really as quick as that.
Yeah, and I'd met. In fact, I'd met Dave Bartram a couple of days before, because I'd spoke to Dave, and Bartram and Motorbase were up the road, obviously at the top by Brands there, and I only live. So we'd gone up and seen Bartram, and we had a contract from them in the Ford, but it was the year that they'd gone from the Honda to the Ford. So it'd been the first year in the Ford Focus.
Yeah, the ST.
And then we went to see Stephen Burt, and we had the contract from Stephen Burt when we come out of the hotel. And me and Vince drove to, I'll never forget it, we drove up to the top of Detlin Hill, and there's a cafe there. And we pulled in there, and we were like, well, what do we do? Do we go Ford Focus, which is unknown, but Bartram had said this car is mega, Or do we go the Honda Civic Type R that nearly won the championship with Dan Camish behind the wheel onto the last corner? We was thinking,
Yeah.
It didn't win the championship, so it's still going to be a strong car the following year. And we just thought, do you know what? Let's go with something proven. Josh Cook and Tom Chilton were there.
Yeah.
And we just thought that would be the better fit, and we chose to go with BTC Racing and 2020 and our goal, because every year before that we set a goal. We'd set to win the championship in GRDC Plus after the round one when we knew we were quick. So we were like, well, that's our goal, to win the championship. Then we went to Ginetta Super Cup as an amateur. The goal was to win the championship. 2019, the goal was to become top rookie that year.
Yeah.
So I'll become top rookie. And then 2020 was to win the Jack Sears Championship. And then obviously we went on to win the Jack Sears Championship.
I mean, just before we sort of move it on, I mean, you mentioned a couple of people there that we've got to talk about before we sort of get into the 2020 year, because we all know what happened in 2020 globally. Bert Taylor, we've got to mention Bert, because obviously I think it was 2020, 2021, he wasn't very well at all. But he's just a lovely bloke. He's a proper motorsport guy, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, there's a story behind that no one actually knows, and I'm probably partly to blame for it. And Ben Taylor was my engineer that 2020 when we won the Jack Sears, and we done a really good job working with each other. And Bert really helped me out to get the seat as well, and everything was all good. There was a few things that had happened in the year, but things that I knew of. But I'm not a grass. I'm not like I didn't go out and say anything. And there was a few things throughout the year, and no one's ever spoken about this. Not even me, not Steve, not Bert. No one's spoken about this. So this is a pretty exclusive bit of information that I'm giving. But I'm sure it's water under the bridge now. I'm sure no one really cares, and it is what it is. But it's probably my opportunity to sort of reach out to Bert and say sorry for my part in it. But at the end of the day, I'm an honest guy. I got asked questions. I tell no lies. And at the end of the day, for me, I wear my heart on my sleeve. And there was some stuff happening in the background. I won't go into details, but there was stuff happening, and there was an incident with one of my sponsors, Rich Energy, and stuff like that. And I think there was conversations going on about me going to another team and stuff like this sort of stuff. And then when it had got back to Steve Dudman phoned me up and basically said, look, and said, look, I'm going to ask you questions. I want you, tell me the truth. So at the end of the day, I told the truth from my side. He asked me questions that I didn't even know that he would have known about. Like, for instance, that I had a meeting with Bert and Chris Smiley about going to another team or something like that. And that was one of the things that I got asked, and I told the truth. And at the end of the day, I don't care. I ain't going to lie for you. I ain't going to lie for anyone. Do you know what I mean? I say how it is, and sometimes it gets me in the shit. But I could have probably said something different. But I'm not a liar at the end of the day. And I just told the truth. And then I think that's what happened that year. And Steve and Bert split, and loads of stuff was coming out of the woodwork and all this sort of stuff. But I was just like, look, at the end of the day, I'd had a great year with Ben. I had a great year with Bert. I'd won the Jack Sears Championship, which is amazing, and amazing for Ben as well. And then to go on and hear Bert got ill and stuff like that was terrible for me. I see Ben, but Ben probably blames me a little bit for what had happened, but it wasn't solely on me. There was other people involved in this that I won't go into, which they know about. It was a bit of friction there between me, Ben, and Bert. To be fair,
I didn't realise that. So,
it was a horrible fallout. Really, it was a horrible fallout, But I've seen me and Ben have put water under the bridge, and I've asked about his dad a few times. I did see his dad at Auto Sport, but I didn't want to go over and approach him and ask if he wants to speak to me. But I will generally apologise for my point in what I played in that. But at the end of the day, I can't lie about if someone asks me a question. So that's what happened with Bert. So.
No worries.
It's probably interesting that you've asked that question about Bert.
No, as I said, I had no idea. I wasn't teeing you up for anything, but it was just
no. But it was probably my opportunity there to just sort of. I'm not in touring car this year. I'm not nothing to do with it. I'm nothing to do with any of it. But I just and at the end of the day, Steve Dudman put a lot of money and time and effort into my career in 2020, and at the end of the day, I wasn't going to lie to someone that had put lots of money into my racing, and helped me that racing. The car's $1 million to run for the year, pretty much. Like with all the testing we were doing in Spain and everything else, and and if I was coming up with under half of that budget, and Steve was putting in the rest, so. Wow. I can't knock Steve Dudman for that, and the team, and at the end of the day, that's why I owe the truth.
Yeah, and obviously knowing Bert as well, he's back on his feet, and I'm sure he would be absolutely fine with things. Whatever's gone on, I'm sure he'll be fine. But yeah,
there's no hard feelings between me and Bert there, but hopefully the feelings are mutual now.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. On to happier things. One great story you mentioned about Tom Chilton. Now you met Tom Chilton in a completely different situation in Brighton. I love this. I absolutely love this.
How do you know this story?
I'm sure I may have heard it through someone and someone else. It might have actually been through Tom when he came on here, when he was doing when he was in the BMW and he was doing the electric racing. That's when he came on for a chat, and I mentioned to him about you being a teammate and whatever, and he told me this great story, and I laughed my head off.
If I could find I've got my old phone somewhere, either in the loft or whatever, but I have actually got the original picture of see, obviously I was a touring car fan, and I was down in Brighton, and on a stag do, or it might be New Year's Eve or something, and I'm walking out, and at the time, he had that stupid crazy hairstyle,
the Sonic haircut.
And I was walking across the road, and I was like, "Is that Tom Chilton?" And I went, "Tom." And he looked over, and he's with his mate, and I'm like, "No way, that's Chilton." So I've run over there, and I've got a picture of him and all this. And this is like before, like even I was even thought about racing. Do you know what I mean? That's just like, no way, that's Tom off touring cars, like. And he was only young at the time, and we ended up dragging him into a bar, and we bought him some shots, and he's really not like that. Because he doesn't know. There was about 30 of us, and I think he thought he was going to get beaten up by us, or if he didn't toe the line.
Like a really polite mugging.
Yeah. So we sort of wrestled him into this bar, we're throwing drinks down his neck, and then he's like, "Right, anyway, boys, see you later." And he's off, like he's gone, thinking, "Who are these weirdos?" And then when I become his teammate in 2020, we were sitting on the plane, and I went, "Tom, I've got to ask you." I said, "Do you remember a night out in Brighton, New Year's Eve?" And I said, "And the guy came over to you and had a say." He went, "Yes, I do." He said, "They were nutters." I went, "That was me." And he was like, "No way." And he remembered it. He actually remembered the story. Like, he remembered getting dragged into this bar and stuff. And I was like, "That was me." And he was like, "What?" And we just laughed about it the whole flight. Brilliant. And he's like Peter Pan, that kid, and he's on a different world to me. And then I was telling him some stories, and the flight and the journey to Graddex and that was just so cool. It was me and him in the back, Josh Cook and Ben Taylor up the front playing 90s pop tunes, and then there was Steve Dudman, Bert Taylor, and someone else in the middle, and we were all singing these songs, and then me and Tom were just singing away, and Josh was the DJ, and it was like a 2-hour journey. We were like, it was one of them trips. It was just like, I'll never forget that either. Like on the way up there, and the boys will tell you as well. It was really good fun. We had a right good laugh, to be honest.
Brilliant. Oh, that's brilliant. I love it. I just love the fact that he remembered it and said you were nutters before he knew it was you.
Yeah.
Love it. No, Tom's great.
I'd love to find the phone and dig the picture out because that would be a classic.
That'd be great. Show him that.
Yeah, and Tom Ingram. I've got a picture of me and Tom Ingram when I won the championship in go-karting in 2016. He was the guest driver at Buckmore Park that gave me my championship trophy. So
this is crazy.
Picture of me and Tom. He just got into touring car, and I'd won the championship in 16 in the hire carts, and he'd come down to Buckmore to give me the. So he still rims me about that as well. Like, oh, do you remember when I gave you a trophy? And all
this? Yes, Tom.
Yeah,
I love it. No, I mean, just get back on track very quickly with the actual season for 2020. We all know what happened with COVID, and it just, it was horrendous, and everything hit the skids. And obviously, I've asked this to a few drivers, whether it be in touring cars or a couple of IndyCar drivers and things like that. Was there a danger that your drive wasn't going to happen? Because there's been a few people that have said, yeah, it was really dicey, and others said, no, it was good as gold. I'm just wondering what your sort of take was.
I think it was a weird one because I had Vince obviously as my backers and PCS, which were obviously a solid sponsor, and Vince said, I always keep supporting you no matter, if you're winning, and we were winning. And what Vince does, he's got a very large independent bathroom company. So he a lot of his, he's the biggest in the UK. So a lot of my sponsors were mainly bathroom based and around PCS and Premier Contract Supply. So our sponsors were okay. And saying that, we did have a £200,000 sponsor put out that year. Or 120 it was, and due to obviously the climate, and then Vince put his hand in his own pocket and paid it. So
wow.
So that was incredible, and we carried on racing that year, and that was the biggest money we raised actually that year in 2020 to go racing, and it was a very strange year, but I'll be honest with you, it was probably my best ever year in racing as in an education.
Right.
Because for me, I had Josh Cook and Tom Chilton as my teammates, and we were either, because there was no fans and there was nothing to do, we didn't have any PR stuff, we didn't have any promotional stuff, we didn't have anyone about. Our families were, I think your family was allowed. You were allowed one or two people. Like if you got kids, your wife and the kids were allowed, or whatever.
Right.
But apart from that, that was it.
It was a close shop.
Yeah, and it was amazing because I don't even have to change a tire on my car. Like I literally didn't. Like in 2019 when I was at Team Art, they were like, talking about turbos and like stuff like this, and I didn't even know. Like they open the bonnet and go, yeah, like that's, and I'll just be like, I ain't got a clue. I haven't got.
I can just about spell turbo, Yeah.
If you'd have said change that wheel, I'd have been a bit like, I literally I know nothing about cars, nothing. And then you got Josh Cook and Tom Chilton, who were like, if they weren't racing drivers, they'd be engineers for all racing drivers because they're that good. Like Josh knows the cars inside out, and Josh sort of took me under his wing and sort of was a real big mentor for me that year, and taught me everything. We were going to tracks, and he was going, "Where would you place the car here?" And I was like, "Here," and I was like 2 meters away from where he would drive on a racing line, and like you think a racing line's a racing line, but where Josh puts the car. And obviously the biggest one for me is Thruxton, and I hate the place. I hate going fast around there. I shit myself every time I go there. But honestly, it's my best place where I get all my results, and that's purely for the fact that like he's told me a few tricks there in Brands Hatch. He's told me a few things at a few corners, and it just works for me and works for him. And but that year, he was teaching me how to engineer the car. So whenever we was in the car doing it, and then we'd get out, and then we would have a massive lesson on what we'd changed, what it does to the car, rear damping, springs, ride height, you know, this, that, and the other. And it was going, right, we're going to, I said, well, let's raise the ride height so I can feel what we were doing. And we was going out there, knew what he was doing. So then I was coming in going, oh, I quite like it a bit more like we had at this time. And then I started learning to engineer the car, like myself a little bit, or giving feedback to the engineers. And because when we was not in the car, we was in the truck all day, every day, from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know, like, because there was nothing else to do. We just go through data, lapse video, you know, getting out of the car, changing things back into what this is what it done. And it was the most intense year of looking at data, and I actually understood what it means. And that has gone on massively for last year in Powermax at 2022, because obviously Ash Hand had come in, and I sort of had to pretty much try and lead the team from my experience of only having 2 years in touring car. But that 1 year with Josh and Tom and the Honda, I learned more than I've probably got 10 years experience in that 1 year. Do you know what I mean?
And that's something that I hadn't thought about. Obviously, for someone, you know, as you say, new to the series and stuff like that. I mean, people that perhaps hadn't sat down and studied all the data, and because of all the other stuff that you've had to do, the fact that with the situation the way it was, it kind of focused. You know, it obviously gave you, you know, that's all you had to do, and it shows that the driver feedback is such a big thing. Which I mean, I'm still convinced there's people out there you think, oh, you just rock up, get in a car, and off you go, and that's it. Which is obviously miles from the truth.
I sort of can relate to that, because I sort of felt a bit like that. That's all you have to do. And it's not until you get into like the Josh Cook level where you going to win a championship and everything, you know, every feeling has to be transformed to the engineer to transform to the car. And I'll never forget, he found me 3 seconds or 2.5 seconds from 2019 to 2020 at round Thruxton.
Jeez.
Yeah, honestly, by the end of the weekend, I was 3 seconds quicker than what I went in 2019.
That's incredible.
And I actually outqualified him at Thruxton. He did have a small brake issue, though. I will give him that. But
he must have loved that.
I qualified. He's been coaching me all like FP1, FP2, and then I've gone out and qualified. I nailed a P9, and he was P10, I think. So, but yeah.
Were you looking across like that?
Yeah, no, I was ribbing him, but he did have a slight brake issue, I think. So I let him off that. But he's just incredible to work with, and you know, I've said it on telly, I've said it behind the scenes, and you know, I felt like obviously when I didn't get the drive in 2021, I think you know, it could have been my year. That definitely could have been my year, because again, another shit story, really. Like we'd won the Jack Sears. We'd done a deal with Steve Dudman for 2021, and it was amazing, and it was all going well. It was me, Jade, and Josh for 2021, and then right, literally, I think it was a Monday. We'd done a contract in 2020, and part of the contract, from where I sit, in my opinion, part of the contract was, if you can get to that level, then great. But because it's COVID, that level was acceptable for 2020.
There's a bit of leeway, yeah.
There was a chunk of money that we couldn't commit to because we didn't have the money. So Steve had said, well, look, get to that bit of the money, guarantee that, and then that bit, you know, was a separate, you know, if we could get to it. So we didn't get to it that year, and then the following year we had a deal, and then we paid our deposit for the first instalment or whatever, and it was same amount deposit of what we had paid, what we had missed out in the last year, if you like.
Okay.
So it's got all the way through. We've gone testing. I was mega quick in testing. Like Cookie, I was right on Cookie's case. Like, you know, at 2 out of 3 tests, we come away quickest, even though he was carrying a little bit of lead, but I was quicker than him. In the 2 tests, even the 3rd test, I think he went sniff quicker than me around Thruxton. I was 3 or 4 attempts quicker than him around Snetterton, and then he took all the weight out of the car, and they had a qualifying run, put new tyres on, and he done me by a tenth. So otherwise, it would have been 3 tests. I would have been quicker than him. But obviously, he had a bit of weight. I'm not sitting here saying I'm quicker than Josh Cook, but I'm saying that at the time that's the level we were at. So we knew that how quick Josh was going to be in 2021, and even if we could hang on to his shirt tails, we were going to be there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Exactly what you saw with Senna Proctor. So what had happened is we got to the week before the race, and Steve said, "Well, lads, I need the deposit paid." And we said, "Well, Steve, we've paid you the deposit." And he said, "No, that was to clear up the bill from last year." And it was very, very political. At the time, Paul Whitnell was my manager. Vince was and was running the show, and Steve, and I pretty much stayed out of it and let the commercial team do their thing. And
sure.
I got a phone call on a Monday or Tuesday saying, "Nah, you're not racing at Thruxton."
Because this was the week of the first round, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they pulled down. No, and then it got to the Wednesday, and I was like, "Am I in or am I out?" And they were like, "No, you're definitely out. You're definitely out." And then they were like, "Oh, there might be a deal. You might be back in." And then it got to the Thursday when I was about to leave to go there, and they said, "Oh no, Camish is in." And I was like, "Wow, what do we do now?" Like,
you must have been gutted.
Yeah, I was absolutely sure, and
I can imagine.
But and then everything for a reason. The first round come, it all got released that I weren't in the car. Even though the press release went out, I still thought I would be in the car, but it didn't. It didn't happen, and then Stuart Parker rang me and said, "How'd you fancy Porsche Super Cup?" And I was like,
"You're like, oh, maybe."
I was like, "Yeah, I'll have a look at it." And Vince, who obviously I've spoken about the whole time, he's a massive Porsche fan, and we always dreamt about going to Porsche Super Cup more so than touring car when we started in Ginettas.
Really?
Yeah, and I phoned Vince up and said, "You know what we spoke about in 2017?" And he went, "Yeah." And I said, "Porsche Super Cup." And I went, "I've got an opportunity." And he went, "You're joking." I said, "No." I said, and you got to remember, it's still COVID though, wasn't it? That was the problem.
Yeah, it's like back end, yeah.
And so he said, "Look, let's go and meet him." And we met Stuart Parker, and Josh Webster had pulled out because he was doing the full season. They'd even done media day, and car 18 was already submitted as Josh Webster's and stuff like that. And then his dad had
family
a heart
stuff,
attack.
didn't he? He had family stuff going on, didn't he?
Yeah, I think his dad had a heart attack or something, and he had to pull it out.
Yeah.
And he was such a nice guy, Josh. And he said, "Look, Crees, I'll help you," and all that sort of stuff. And the Harry King was obviously the second car. And I went, yeah. Didn't even think about it. Didn't even look at it. I was just like, yeah, 100%. Let's go. Because I was thinking that, I'm going to be on the sideline here, and to race Porsche Super Cup. And then I was like, "Where's the first race?" I was like, "Monaco." I was like, "Oh, no."
What have I done?
Oh, no. So we'd done the deal, and Parker, obviously, it was their first year running the 992. Obviously, it was the first year of the 992.
Yeah.
Everyone was on a blank canvas, but obviously we didn't have the budgets that Lechner and GP Elite had. They were out doing like 15 tests and stuff like that before the season.
And obviously teams like Lechner have got big backing as well, and they've got a sponsorship. They've got the proper.
And we literally rocked up at Monaco, and I've never driven a Porsche on the road before or on a track. I've never been in a Porsche. And we done a day testing at Silverstone, but it was only half a day in the end because I think we didn't have wets or something like that. We turned up because they didn't have any wets in the country or something like that. And I've gone round in slicks to start, and as I've driven to the end of the pit lane for 9 o'clock as the green light's gone, it thunder and lightning, and it was a job just getting the car back to the pit lane. Really? And then so we sat there until it sort of like lunchtime, so it dried out, and we had half a day in the car there. And I didn't do too bad actually that test. Me and Harry were just banging around, and I was only about 1.4 seconds. I know it's long in racing, but around Silverstone GP track, 1.4 seconds off Harry King weren't too bad on a grease track. And who'd obviously just won Porsche Carrera Cup you know, and being a Porsche factory driver, I thought, well, it ain't too bad for me. So I was going to, and then obviously the next stop was Monaco, and wow, what do I say about that?
I was gonna just come on to it. I mean, just very quickly. I mean, it gets a lot of stick. It was just, oh, it shouldn't be on the F1 calendar, blah blah blah, yada yada. My go-to response is it's only it's only F1 fans that have got a problem with Monaco because the cars are too big. Every other fan of every other series, every other driver, they love it because it's a hell of a challenge. It's a fantastic circuit, and that kind of shuts everyone up when they slag off Monaco.
Monaco is Monaco. Like, it doesn't really matter that it's single file. It doesn't matter. I mean, just going there as a spectacle is just incredible. And
Yeah.
and it is the best place. So I've been and watched Formula One all around the world, and that is just special when you turn up there. It's like anyone's anyone. I remember I went to watch the Monaco Grand Prix, 2011, 12. And my friend Brett Reader does the onboard cameras, and he'd organised breakfast in McLaren, and Hamilton and Button were there, and they had breakfast with them and all that sort of stuff. Martin Whitmarsh, and it was like unbelievable experience. And I was down there as a fan, and it was just like from the hot. I was there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it was just like an awesome place to go.
Yeah.
Like, no one even watches the racing. Everyone's just there for the party and the atmosphere, and it's just but then to go back there and actually race it was, well, I don't really know. It was just, I can't even explain it to the point where it actually fits in my heart. Do you know what I mean?
Because you kind of can't do it justice.
Yeah, I think 1% of the racing world has driven at Monaco.
Yeah.
And
you're in it, which, I mean, I've just seen a comment from like James Harmon, who's evening James. He's a big Formula E fan, and he said and I saw it on his Facebook. He went to Monaco for the Formula E, and he just said, "Amazing, no words." Which,
it is incredible. But I had my mechanic at Parker was Darren, a lad called Darren, and then Dazza was on Harry's car, and they're such a good team, Parker, and they're all really good lads. And Sam, not forgetting him, Grumps was on my tyres, who does Jake Hill's tyres now at touring car, and it was a proper little family thing, and everyone made me feel welcome. And you got to remember, I was turned up there shitting myself, driving a brand spanking new 992 round the streets of Monaco. Not even, it was. I was out of my depth really. But I remember going in practice and just getting a feel for the car. And I remember it's about a quarter of a mile, half a mile to drive from the circus tent to the track, because you have to drive the cars through the streets, and you've got like a police escort and stuff. And and no one even knows this story. Well, people do know it, but no one's ever seen it. But I actually took my phone and recorded my first ever lap of Monaco. Maybe I shouldn't have said that on here, because I'm probably going to get in trouble for it at some point. But I took my phone and I thought, I've got to video this first lap of Monaco, because this is going to stick with me forever. And I took my phone and I'm driving through the streets, and then I come around, I'm videoing it, and all of a sudden I pop out onto the start-finish line, and I'm like, no, this is like mad.
Like, this is happening.
We have to do like from the circus tent, you have to go out on the track and then just drive around and then go into the pits before the session starts. So it weren't really dangerous, but it was probably. I think if the FIA would have got involved, I'd have been in serious trouble. But and I remember popping out on the start-finish line, and I even remember like trying to record. I even remember sort of pretty much just going like, "What? This is like,
what is happening?"
Yeah, and I was sort of just drove round and went round turn one, and I was coming up the hill, and I was just like, and my wife always says to me like, "Make sure you take it in, make sure you take it in," and I was just driving my first lap, and I was just looking at the balconies, Cafe de Paris, and then down to me and my wife stayed in not on the Grand Prix weekend, but we went out there for our a bit of a honeymoon after we got married, and we stayed in the Fairmount there.
On the hairpin.
Hairpin, and I was driving around there thinking, I got arrested there because I got nicked for speeding when I was there on holiday in a Fiat 500 and stuff like that. And then I drove around and come through the tunnel, and then the boats are there, and I was just like, like I was almost like welling up. Like, and I come in, and my mechanic grabbed the phone off me and was like, "Did you enjoy that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he slapped my crash helmet. And went, right, now get your ass in gear. And then all of
Yeah,
a
paid in
sudden,
the game.
all of a sudden, I went from being overwhelmed to like, let's do this, like let's
Yeah.
go. And I went out and then we done some real solid laps in practice, and we were getting quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. I remember my first lap through the tunnel, like on a flyer. I even changed down to fourth as I was going through, because it's well tight, that tunnel, in the curve in the tunnel. And
Is it really? Okay.
yeah, it's proper tight, and like all the boys, like by the end of it, like Kingy was going through it flat out, didn't have a lift at all in fifth. But I remember my first lap, I was going up to it, and I was like, oh, down to fourth, and then I'd drive around it and then back up to fifth. But by the end of it, and then I got to qualifying, and I was looking at some data and stuff, and they were like, yeah, it's flat through there, and I was thinking, there's no way that's flat through that tunnel, mate. I'm definitely going to crash if I try. And then all the way through qualifying, they were like, yeah, you're last, like you're like, I knew it was like 28th or something was last, and I was like, where am I? Like P28, you're getting quicker, and then he came on the radio and went, Mike, last lap now, come on, like, get your head down. And again, put in a lap of my life, gone across the line, and all of a sudden I can hear all the boys cheering on the radio, and I was like, "What's happened? What's happened?" Like,
what have I done?
You're P2 in class and P17 overall, and I was like, "What the?" Yeah, and I literally just banged it in, and I was like P2 in class, and Raw Lindeland and Nicola Massenet or Michelin or someone like that. Anyway, they'd been racing in Porsche Supercup for like 10 years or whatever, doing Monaco like 10 times or whatever, and I've just banged it in behind Raw Lindeland for P2.
Wow.
And everyone was just amazed by it, and
That's incredible.
you know, and that for me was like, wow, I can do this. I can actually do this. And then got, went to sleep that night, and I was buzzing, and I was like, oh my God, like P2, and imagine if I get a podium at Monaco, and this, and all these thoughts go through your head, and then obviously turned up at the race weekend, and on the race on the Sunday, and the track is really different. We were practicing FP1 and FP2 at like, there might be at 4 o'clock on one day, or it might have been 9 o'clock in the morning. And then qualifying was at 11, and then the race was at like 9. But every time you went out on the track, because it had the traffic in the night time and like a bit of rain or whatever down, the surface is so different. It's not the same from one day to the next. And so it really,
that's what people don't think about with the street circuits in general, but I guess Monaco even more so because of
honestly. And you imagine when the circuit shuts, the street opens, and everyone's and it's so busy. Everyone's drinking, spilling it on the floor. There's bottles or whatever, and there's drink all over the floor and stuff, and it just changes the track, like all the way through swimming pool, all the way around Rascasse. The track from day to day was just completely different.
I'm never going to look at Monaco the same way now you said that. I've never thought of that.
Yeah, but because I think the Formula One cars pretty much have a schedule the same sort of times when they go out in the daytime or whatever. But us, we were like sort of like, really late in the day there or early in the morning there, and it would just evolve out the day. And so that was one thing I really remember. But the other thing is, like, the only way I can explain racing around Monaco is like everywhere's a dead end. Like you can't. It's like you're doing 150 mile an hour into a dead end, and then all of a sudden the corner appears and you're in. Like, and it's just like, because the barriers are like here as you're sort of sitting there. So you're going down to turn one, and just as you pop around the corner, then you can sort of see the track go like that, and and you go up the hill. And I remember the first time I went up the hill, I was just like, I ain't got a clue where to break it. And then it was Harry King said to me, Mike, as you go up, there's 2 zebra crossings. Break at the second zebra crossing. And I was like, what, on my track walk? And he was like, this is the zebra crossing you need to break at. And then you look out for like a pelican crossing down the hill, and you look out for, like, what was the other thing he said? Like, as you're going into the hairpin, there was a staircase on the left that goes up to the park, and he was like, break at as a start. you know, it was weird stuff like that. And
it's the kind of stuff that doesn't work at Croft.
Yeah. So I was literally coming up the hill blind, like can't see anything, 100, 140, 100 whatever, and I'm just looking down for this zebra crossing, and I'm like, get to the zebra crossing, bang on the brakes, then you're in, you go around there, and then it's like, what, okay, down the hill, and then you get into the airport, and you're like, it's just like non-stop, like you're holding your breath. I can almost like relive the feeling, and then you know, like through the tunnel, and then all of a sudden the light hits you, and it's like someone shining a bright light in your eye.
Yeah, that's something I've always wondered about, because it's obviously dark in the tunnel. You got the lights and stuff, but then invariably in Monaco, you're out into bright sunlight. That has got, just for like a split second, that has got a really. Do you struggle with like depth perception and stuff? And
it's like your pupils go from large to small. Like it's just that feeling, like, and you have that every single lap. And then I remember like braking distance there, though. Like we come through the tunnel flat out in fifth, and you're braking at 150 board, which is weird because when you watch the Formula One, you think you see them braking at 100-meter board, they're braking in a straight line down the hill into the thing, and you think, oh well, I can do that. First, I have to go around there, and just outbrake yourself, boom, straight. And like so, really in the Porsche Super Cup, you're braking at 150, which is actually round the corner. So you're sort of like braking, cars moving all over the place. Then you're hard on the straight, and it's a real different way of watching it.
So you're not straight at all when you hit the brakes.
Exactly. You were like around the corner, and that was, and then like the curbs in a Porsche. I had to learn like you have to. I took that into 2022 actually. What I learned in the Porsche, and it's like preloading the car. So at Monaco, you sort of have to give it a little bit of a turn, so sort of like left into the first chicane, and you sort of like turn the car right to get the body weight over onto the car before you hit the curb, because Tio Ellinas and people like that were hitting the curbs, and where they didn't lean the car in before, they were launching off. And I think if you watch the race back, you'll see a few people launch up, and that's just where they're not presetting the car. And they said to me that's what you need to do, and I had to learn that pretty quick, because you have to take the curves in Monaco in the Porsches. You have to just smash them, and if you get, you know, and that's where all the time came in qualifying, and then obviously the race got underway, and we've all gone around turn one. There was a massive shunt, going up the hill, and there was like, I think there was 9 cars involved, and I see the BWT cars hit the wall. I saw the door come off, and I'm doing like 100+ mile an hour, 110, 120 mile an hour, whatever. I've seen the door fly off, and then I've seen this wheel bouncing across the road, and the car had hit the wall on the right and gone back left, and all I could see was this one little gap as the car was coming back across the track. And I remember like getting there, and I literally, if I'd have hit it, it would have been a massive, it would have been my biggest accident by far, because I literally I'd committed to go for this gap, and I remember putting my foot flat to the floor because I'd had a lift as I'd seen it hit bouncing off. It's like a ping pong ball, like rattling. And I remember having a big lift, and I saw the gap, and the car was over there. And I thought, nail it. And I committed myself, and the car was coming back across, and I was like, and there was a wheel, and it bounced right in front of the car, and I hit the wheel, and just the rim, the tire had come off, and I'd hit the rim, and I remember like actually like squeezing my bum together in my arms, and like I breathed in, even though it doesn't do anything in the car. And I remember the car, you know, like when you curb a car, you know, when you curb a wheel, and it's like, I could hear it like curbing on the wheels were curbing up the curb, and then the car just came across, and all of a sudden I came out, and I was like, I think I've got away with it. I looked at my mirror, and no one came through, and I was like, and they were like, red flag. And I slowed down, and I was like looking in my mirror thinking, where is everyone? No one's come through. And obviously the road was blocked. And then Mike would come back to the picture, P1, your P1 in class. And I was like, what has just gone on there? Like, that was like,
incredible.
So I had a moment to process what had gone past. And then I was processing, shit, you know, what do I do now? And then we got back to the pits, and they're not allowed to touch the cars. And where I'd hit the wheel, that was bouncing, it had knocked my front splitter off. But it's only like on them Porsches, a little rubber trim that goes around the front. But again, you know, lack of experience. I've never driven a car without a splitter on it. I mean, Harry King lost his one at Knock Hill that year against Dan Camish, and like he was like wrestling with the car and everything to just get it to finish. And apparently they lose loads of aero when they've lost that, and it was half on and half off, and they're not allowed to clip it back on. So we've gone out for the restart, and I've gone round, done the lap, and I could feel that, but I thought it was just the tyres were cold because the car weren't behaving as well. And then I've gone into turn one, I've hit the brakes, and it's automatically locked the front wheel. But with the new 992, you have to come all the way off the brake and then go back on it to get the wheel to rotate.
Right.
By the time I'd done that, I turned in, I had no front grip, and just caught the curb, and then that was it. Turn one, it was game over. But I hit the wall so hard, my head hit the window of the car, and but then I was driving up there and I was thinking, oh, this is all right. Yeah. So I booted it because I thought, oh, I've just glanced off the barrier and it hasn't done any damage. Got to the top of the hill, and went to hit the brakes. Obviously, I'd ripped the front wheel off, so all the fluid and everything was gone. So I'd pretty much ripped the wheel back, and all the stuff had come out on the inside, and I'd hit the brakes. So I nearly went off and hit the wall at the top of the hill, and it was really, really weird. I didn't know where my wife or where my kids were watching or anything like this, because they had disappeared to go off and watch it around the track somewhere before, when I was getting prepared to go out about an hour before. And my wife, Paul Whitnell, and a guy called Tony Greenway, who was one of my sponsors, who was the only sponsor we managed to get out there as a team member, but he was one of my sponsors. And I've come up the top of the hill and gone into where Café de Paris is, and I've turned right there, and I've parked it on the right. And honestly, mate, I was crying. My eyes out. I was thinking, I was leading the race. I've just lost it. And I've got out of the car, and they've pushed me back outside the Café de Paris in that area there. And I'm like this, and I've looked up, and my wife and my kids are in the grandstand right opposite there, and I could see them, and they were like, "Are you okay?" Like, because obviously I didn't know, and then I looked up and see them, and I was just so gutted. I was so gutted, and if I'm honest, I go to sleep every single night and think about that moment, because it's never left me. It's never left me. And I remember walking all the way down, and the marshals and the people there at Monaco were so nice to me, and they were like, they could see how, and you get chaperoned back down, and then one passes you on to the next, and then they pass you on to the next, and they're all in awe because you're a racing driver at Monaco, I suppose, and they all want to have a little chat. But I just felt like it's the end of the world, and I still just feel like that was the moment that could have just made my career. Do you know what I mean?
Well, never say never. There's no reason why it can't come round again. You never know, do you? You never know. I mean,
but to be honest, would I swap that feeling for what I've done? No, because I've raced at Monaco and I've done it, and it was it's on the bucket list.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, anyone that tunes into these things, I'll defend street circuits and I'll defend Monaco to the hilt because it's incredible. And if anyone is a naysayer about Monaco, watch this. Watch the last 10 minutes of this, and then you think again. Just, I can't add nothing to it. It's just awesome, absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's good, and it's nice to talk about it in depth with somebody like you who knows. You can talk about it to your family or whatever, but no one really understands unless you're a proper petrol head and you're into your racing. Like you can't open up about things and feelings and how it was, and unless you're someone who's proper into their motorsport.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was incredible. It was a great experience, and it went on. Off the back of that, I got to drive. John Bevan rang me up to drive the Bevan Imp up the hill at Goodwood Festival.
Yeah.
And to drive the 70, 71 and 72 British Touring Car Championship car, winning car, the only car ever to do, I think, 3 years on the bounce. That was bittersweet because I was so down in the dumps from Monaco, and then Austria didn't go amazingly good because, again, it was a whole new experience, warming up tyres. I didn't know how to do that, and and the second week, that again, COVID was. It was really weird. I can't explain it. Like, me and my friend went out there, and we got to Austria, and you know, the Red Bull Ring is an incredible. I'd advise anyone to go there because it doesn't do it justice on the telly.
It's on my list. It's one of the. Weirdly, it's Monaco and Austria are the two European ones. Okay, Spa as well, but Monaco and Austria, they just look brilliant.
Yeah, and turn two at Austria, even turn one to an extent, but turn two,
Is that the hairpin?
literally like it's that up that hill.
Well, yeah, and then
and the Formula One cars are braking there like 50, and we were braking there like 50 meters because the hill is so steep, right? I remember on my track wall, my electric scooter wouldn't even go up it because it was just too steep for it. So like we were like having to push them up there. It was that steep, right? And that's why you could brake so late. But it just doesn't do it justice unless you see it in real life. And but we went there the first weekend, really weird. I stayed in this lovely hotel, 103 rooms. We booked in. It was about half an hour from the track. Had a pool and all this, and we pitched up there, and we were like, "Where is everyone?" They were like, "Oh, Austria's in lockdown, complete lockdown. No one's allowed out." There was 6 of us staying in a 103 room hotel, and it was fully staffed. And so we had like personal chefs, personal waitresses, all this sort of stuff. Like literally nothing about like. And obviously we're there for work. We were out on our electric scooters going up and down the mountains, and me and Richard Ryder were just bombing around, and we didn't see a soul. It was so weird, so eerie. Like you could hear the streams like over, like, you know, no traffic, no nothing. It was so weird. I can't explain that. And then, so that was the first weekend. So I was there for 2 weeks because they'd cancelled the French Grand Prix because of COVID.
Yeah, it was a back-to-back, wasn't it?
Back-to-back Austria. So the first weekend was like that, and I'd booked 2 weeks out there, so I'm missing my family like hell. I was kids. I've never been that away from them for that long ever, and it was weird. My head weren't right. I didn't enjoy it. I just don't know. I weren't myself. And then we had the first weekend. I couldn't get on with the car. I threw off in qualifying, stuck it in the gravel. I'd gone off in practice and spun. Nothing, no damage or nothing, but just doing stupid stuff. And it sort of like demoralised me. And then they sat me down after the first weekend and said, "Look, you didn't warm up your tyres, you had cold graining, you were this, you were that." And they said, "Like, go out." And I think it was Larry Ten Border and Dylan Pereira. And they said, and Guven, they were like, "Follow them boys out the pits and watch how they warm their tyres up." And so I followed them out qualifying, and they were literally like rolling around the whole track, just not weaving or nothing, but on the brakes the whole time. Hard on the brakes, but still on the brakes. So like they were driving pretty much with their brakes on. So and then the next lap, then they would do the big like long weaves with a bit of braking and stuff, and it was just a fine art. And all of a sudden, I was like, "Hold on, this is like the car's completely coming to life now." But what I was leading up to is it got to the Wednesday, and they come out of lockdown.
Right.
And I've gone from zero, nothing open, no shops, no bars, to like 175,000 people at the track. Like it was just like, I can't explain it to you. And I've pitched up on a Thursday to practice, or Friday or whatever, and the campsites are overflowing. You know, you can imagine it. Everybody's come out of lockdown from Belgium, from Holland. The Max fans were there. The flares were going off and practice. It was just like, I just can't explain it to you. It was just weird, so weird. To the point where I finished.
That was the word I was about to say. Weird.
Yeah, I finished racing on Sunday morning, and the Grand Prix, we finished at like 11 o'clock or whatever, and the Grand Prix weren't on until 1:30. And I just had to get out of there. I got in my car and I drove 155 mile an hour from Austria to Calais, and it was a 9-hour drive. I'd done it in 6 hours. And Harry King still to this day is like, he was in the back, and he's like, we had to go down to 155 at one point, because at 156 the car was whistling, and it was making a weird whistling noise. Yeah, so we had to drop it down. We averaged out 120 mile an hour at one point. I think average.
Just was this in Germany? You were doing this?
We'll say it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely in Germany. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It was through Germany at one point. We did get arrested. We came out. We got done. We came out out of Austria, and I was like, "Boys, I've got to get out." So my mental capacity, I just couldn't take any more of it. I just needed to get home. Missing my family and stuff, and I needed to get home. And they no one even knows the story. They don't even know it. I've never spoke about it. And we come bombing out of the track, and we've gone down to the first half an hour down there with a gun, bang. They got us at about 120, I think. It cost me €160, but out there it's just a fine, and then you crack on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, at the end of the day, I just wanted to get home. So I just paid that. We had a right chat with them. They were like taking selfies of us and all this sort of stuff, like me and Harry and that, and then we're bombing on. And then, like I say, we were absolute flat out all the way home, and then I got the phone call that they'd cancelled the British Grand Prix, because all the Porsche Germany got the phone call, and then all my sponsors went, Mike, they cancelled it the Sunday we were there on the Austria, and then. Right. By the time I got home on the Monday, all my sponsors have pretty much said, well, look, we was only sponsoring you because there was 180,000 fans going to the British Grand Prix. And all my sponsors were going to come to that Grand Prix and see their name on the car and have the paddock. And then
it was cancelled because all the teams are European based, and it was quarantine and all that kind of stuff. If they'd done it, wasn't it?
Yeah. Because it's 14 days, so but a lot of the drivers, what you don't see in Super Cup, they race in either the French Carrera Cup or German Carrera Cup. And if they'd come to England, they'd have had to quarantine. They wouldn't have been able to race in them championships.
Yeah. So because also Harry does the Benelux, he does all that stuff, doesn't he?
So that's why they canned it off, and then there was a seat come available because Glyn Geddy had flipped it at Thruxton, and his car come available when I got back from Austria. And so Tony phoned me up and said, look, do you want to do the second half of the season in touring car? So I said, yeah.
Oh, really?
I said, yeah, look, let me speak to my sponsors. So I've done that, and went testing 2-day tyre test at Snetterton no, it weren't the 2-day tyre. It might have been one of the days, I'm not sure. No, because I don't think the press knew about it, actually, or the public knew about it. I think it was just a test. So I jumped in the Cupra, and it's a good car. Like, I jumped in it, clicked with it straight away, and they'd seen how hard I'd worked in 2020, because I'd come back and I said, we need to change this. And Jeffrey Kingston was engineering me that day, and he said, at the end of the day, Mike, we need you in this car. From what you've developed the car from morning to the afternoon, we want you in this car. And I was changing the springs within. We only done like a few hours test at Snetterton, and I said, right, boys, we need to change the springs, we need to this and that, and they were like, what? As it like, because I think they were thinking me from 2019, I didn't have a clue, and then
they're thinking, who's this guy?
Yeah, and then Jack Mitchell jumped in the next day, and he had already had his budget together, and by the time I'd got COVID. That's what had happened. I came out of there, and I'd got COVID that weekend. From Austria, and then I was straight in the car at Snetterton, and I started feeling rubbish when I was at Snetterton, and then I came home, and mate, I nearly died with it. Like I felt I didn't, but I got to the point where I was thinking, when do I need to go into hospital, because I was that bad, and it hit me. I was in bed for like 2.5 weeks, couldn't move. I was so bad, and I remember like my manager at the time, Paul, was saying, don't go to hospital. You go to hospital, you're going to die. You go to hospital, you're going to die. And I was thinking, I need to go to hospital. And he was like, if you go in there, you ain't coming out. Like, don't go to hospital, because everyone was, because you were going into hospital and everyone had COVID in there. And at the time, it was so scary because everyone didn't know about COVID. Everyone was dying and all this sort of stuff.
And I guess the hospital was like COVID soup.
Yeah, and I was thinking, oh no, he's saying don't go. And I remember I felt so ill. I thought I just need to be in hospital. Like at one point, I thought I just need to be there. And then I didn't. He was like, don't go. Whatever you do, don't go. He was like, just carry on, like paracetamol and all this sort of stuff. So Tony was ringing. What's happening? I want you in the car. And it was like the summer break. So I had like 4 weeks or something until the next round. at Alton, and then Jack Mitchell had got his, and I literally didn't even have it in me to speak to anyone. I didn't speak to anyone. I was so ill, and then he put Jack in the car, and then I sat the rest of the season out, which probably hindsight was probably a good idea. And then obviously I got my stuff together, and then got all my sponsors back on board, and then we done a deal with PowerMax for 2022.
Yeah, which was, I mean, I think when you announced it, I mean, we all saw it on the socials. Everyone was like, "Yes, back," and everyone loved it. And obviously, Adam's, I chat with him briefly after I saw you at the media day, and I chat with him. He's a good lad.
Yeah, he's a good lad. I mean, again, I think I would have been in the car probably this year with PowerMax again, but it sort of got a little bit shitty towards the end of last year. Obviously, rolled the car on the last race, which didn't help. And my deal at the time with Adam was great. He was so accommodating and stuff like that. But then we had a sponsor pull out on us right, and paid all the way through, didn't pay their last payment. But then we had helped the team out earlier on in the season with paying some bills early, and it got a bit messy towards the end. And then in the end, I think like after the season had finished, it was like, "Oh, you're going to sign?" We were like, "No, we're probably going to miss this one." And then we went to Autosport, and Adam said, "Look, you've still got a seat if you." Well, like everything got sorted out, and then he said, "Look, you've still got a seat with me if you want it." And at the time, I'd done a deal pretty much with Toyota for this year, and we were talking to Christian, and we'd had the Zoom call with John, the new partner at Speedworks, and they really liked what I was saying and what I was about, and they want, and the contract was pretty much being sort of printed as I lost my 200 grand sponsor that was gonna back me, and I had to phone Christian and say, "Look, it's all falling apart last minute," and and obviously by then Adam had signed Doble and Watson and chose to run the third car, and no, actually they'd signed Watson, and then they were talking about Taylor Smith was talking about that at Autosport, and then I thought, oh well, that's gone. And then Mikey Doble came in after to sign a multi-year deal with the team, and basically Adam then found it viable to run the third car, but obviously I weren't in that position.
Right.
So that and then obviously with what happened at Toyota and falling that out of bed. And then that left us pretty much on the sideline, and then I went for a test. I got a phone call from a lad called Joe Wheeler who races in British GT and Toro Verde. It used to be Norman Burgess is part of it with David Fairbrother and Jules Westwood.
Right, yeah.
And they rang me up and said, "Do you want to come for a test?" So I said, "Yeah, 100%. Like British GT, like we'll help you out with the budget and all this sort of stuff." And so I've driven all the way up to Silverstone to test the British GT G56. And as I've got there, pulled in at literally 9:10, and Joe Wheeler's gone out to warm the car up and stuck it in the wall, like completely totaled it. I think there was a red flag, and then tires were cooled down, and he was just and he got caught out somehow. Just a simple mistake, and he's hit the wall and it's ripped the front off the car. And so I'm like, okay, so obviously we can't go testing today, but I've just driven 3 hours to be here. So we had a chat and said, look, I'm not quite there with the budget. And they said, oh, okay, well, look, let's see if we can do it. But some people saw me there. And then next thing, I got a phone call from Raceway Motorsport, Luca Hurst, who was my mechanic in 17 on my GRDC. Now he owns Raceway Motorsport, which is here. And him and his wife now own the team, and they've gone from being my mechanic. And then I've gone there, and all his brother Ayrton was the bloke who strapped me in the car in 17 and all that. So it felt like I'd just gone back into this family. And and Tom Holland, Lucas said, "You got a lad called Tom Holland. His dad's the CEO of Taylor Wimpey, and obviously we were in construction, and it all links and it all."
I knew the name from somewhere. I'm in construction as well, so
Nigel Holland.
Right.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so basically they rang me up and said, look, you know, we'll help you get back on the grid, and if you'll drive along Tom, and Tom's great lad. He's come from the amateur Ginettas, you know, the GTAs, and he comes second in the championship there. And he's a quick lad, and he's just developing all the time. And for me to get back in the Ginetta with my old, you know, mechanics, it just felt like a glove. And then obviously we went to Alton. As you can probably see in the back, we won Pro-Am, and we third overall in our first race, and then I got a phone call from Eddie Ives to go and test the new McLaren Arturo in Misano. And I was sitting at my desk at midday, and he went, get on the flight at 8 o'clock tonight and get out here and test the car. So I jumped off from my desk, drove to Gatwick, got on the plane, went out to Misano, tested the McLaren, not even thinking that I was going to do any races in it. Come back from there, done a good job, you know, with Tom Empson out there. I was only a couple of temps off of him, and he'd been there for a couple of days. So that, you know, like I was like 5 seconds off him on my first lap. So literally, I've never even played Misano on the game or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then after
proper circuit though. Proper circuit.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's quick. And then,
it's this Marco Simoncelli one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. And then we won at Alton, and then Eddie phoned me and said, right, mate, we're off to Monza. You're in the car with Jack Mitchell. And I was like, wow. So, and then obviously went to Monza. I put it on pole position there, and then we just got so unlucky that weekend. We were just so unlucky. And I was looking
past speared, didn't you?
Thinking, oh, we're going to be on there. And then we just got so unlucky with it. And then the second round at British GT, I was leading the race by an absolute mile. Couldn't see anyone in the mirror. I was pushing all the pros in front of me. You know, Middleton, I was on the back of him, and the Porsche and the other McLaren. And then we came in the pits, and the fuel nozzle just didn't quite connect, and the fuel would come out onto the exhaust and caught fire.
Oh.
Well, this is a bit of a weird story, actually, because obviously Tom had got out. It was after the first pit stop, so it was the second pit stop. So I was getting in. So I'm standing there waiting to get in. I seen the car go up in flames. I'm like, sod this, I'm off. Like, see, so like, I've legged it. They're spraying all this like, powder and stuff. And I'm like, coughing my guts out. I'm going to crash over me. Moving on. I'm like, what is going on here? And then the hose has caught fire. And I'm like, oh my God, if that goes up, this is like a bomb.
The whole thing's
like a bomb. So I'm like legging it. And then they're like, Creasy, get in the car. And I'm like, as if I'm getting in that. You're mental. So like, I've gone round, got in the car. They put the fire out. I've got in the car. And, like, I can't see anything. It was like a blanket over the car. All this dust and powder. So I'm on the radio saying, lads, can you wipe the window? I literally can't see anything. They're cleaning the car. And with that, the car's gone up again in flames. But on my side this time. And I'm like, lads, should I get out or what? And they're like, no, stay in the car. I'm like, are you sure?
Really?
And they're like, go. You're going to put the flames out like when the car goes. And I was like, are you like, this is like, what? And I was just thinking, I'm driving to the end of the pit lane thinking, this car has been on fire for a good few minutes. And then I've come out the pits, I'm into like Maggots Beckett's at like 100+ miles an hour thinking, is everything going to be all right here? But yeah, and then it got to the point where the safety card came out, and I'd opened the door because I was just trying to breathe because I couldn't breathe with all the dust in the car. And then they come on and they said, you can't drive around with the door open. This ain't touring car. Like, let's shut the door. But obviously I was doing it because I didn't have any air in the car. Do you know what I mean? So that was the Silverstone 500 over. And then obviously at Donington, I had a family holiday last week, and I couldn't. 60 of us going on holiday, so I literally couldn't change it. And the Hollands knew, and the team knew that I couldn't make it for that weekend. So they put a driver in the car. But obviously I'm back at Snetterton next week.
You are back. Excellent.
Yeah.
We
probably skipped out the whole of 2022 in the Power Max car, haven't we? That's probably the end.
It's all right. Yeah. They got a mention. We name dropped Adam. It's all right. Yeah. It's good. It'll be fine. It'll be good as gold. Just a quick question actually from Andy Hopley. Evening, Hoppers. He went on his little podcast for a chat. Check him out.
Yeah.
Hoppers Motorsport on Facebook. He's a good lad. He said, "What is Monza like as a circuit? I guess what's it like to drive? I mean, because it's one of those iconic, historic circuits, isn't it? I mean, is it a good one to drive?
Yeah, I mean, it's
Got to be, isn't it?
mega, mate. Oh, it's like it's so weird because GT4 McLaren there don't really do it justice, but it is quick still. Do you know what I mean? Even though they're the big old long straights, it feels like you're only on them for like a second, and then you're back into the corner again. And turn one, obviously, like braking so late into that is. Into the chicane, and it's really weird. That chicane's a lot tighter than it looks on TV as well. Like you almost have to like sort of turn back on yourself to then turn left. It's really weird. Like on the telly, it looks just like a chicane, doesn't it? But you almost have to sort of go round it to go back the other way, and
it's a proper 90-degree and even more. Isn't it? It's a proper...
to sort of get the car over, and then.
Because that corner's weird. Because obviously, historically, they used to go straight flat through there, but then years ago it went left right, and then it went right left, and they're messing around with it. I think which one?
Yeah.
What are they going to do next?
Yeah, and then obviously you got the fast right, which was really sketchy through there in the wet because it bucketed down when we was out there, didn't it? And it was like proper lethal through there, and then into like Lesmo 1, 2. I just couldn't get the hang of them corners. You miss it by 10 centimeters, and the car was just gone. And like you have to, it's like really weird. It's like there's like a curve, and then the camber starts on the track, and then there's like you have to really get hooked up in there, and you miss it by the slightest bit. The car was all over the place. I spun there in qualifying, and I was facing the wrong way with cars coming at me there. I was like, oh my god, this is going to end in tears. But it did end in tears in the end. Someone missed their braking point and just took me out into turn one and done some damage on the car. So.
Yeah, shame. Again on the socials, a lot of people sort of gutted about that.
Yeah,
seeing that happen. But I mean, yeah, you've obviously taken to it pretty well. This whole GT thing, it's
yeah. I mean, I had pole position at Silverstone as well. So we've had 3 races, 2 poles and a second in qualifying, and I've had a win, and we would have won Silverstone we were so far in the lead, and then me and Jack would have won both races at Monza as well. We were so far in the lead in Pro-Am. So yeah, I mean, what can I say? It's very political. It's very I won't say too much about it, but yeah, it's going well. Yeah, it's going well.
Yeah, and it's all looking good for the rest of the season, with the pace and everything in the car. So yeah, obviously, hope it all goes well.
Yeah, I reckon it'll be all right, isn't it? We practiced there. I was pretty good in practice, so I'm looking forward to a good weekend there. Should suit the Ginetta a little bit more with the amount of turns and stuff. Ginetta's quite good through the corners.
Yeah, with that little twisty bit in the middle.
Yeah,
on the 300. Yeah. Right, two little questions. Actually, one just do a little backtrack about PMR. John Francis, he's asked, are you gutted not to be in the Astra with it being really competitive this year? Or is it?
Yes, but I think
that's a horrible question, isn't it?
What you've seen, I mean, and this no disrespect to Power Max, I hope they can keep going. But Donington was very, very tricky conditions, right time, right times, and they got the right call because they've got a very good engineering team and a good staff there at PMR, and they made the right calls, and they've been around for many moons, and then Thruxton, the car always goes well there. I think you'll see the car struggle. We just couldn't get the setups at Croft or Alton was okay. Yeah, it was okay there, so it might go well there. But it's like anything in touring cars. Some tracks suit the car, some don't. But the 2 races that they've had where Power Max have been up there, is Thruxton's one of them, which is great for the car. I had 3 top 10 finishes at Thruxton with no hybrid last year, and if I was 4th in one of the races until Ash cut the chicane, and then Collard tried to cut it as well and hit me, and then we had no hybrid, so we dropped back to 8th in that. But I think I would have easily been, and we start, even with the reverse grid, we started 3rd, but I just had no hybrid. The beacon weren't picking up the car, but round there killed me because I think if I had had it, I'd have been down the road for sure in race one, and would have had my first podium. I think the car was that good, and when I got hybrid came back in on lap 14 out of 16, and I think I was like 5 seconds behind Robot, and I just was on the back of him. As soon as hybrid come back, I was there. So when we looked at the pace of what I had towards the end of that race compared to everyone around me, we were miles quicker. So, but yeah, I mean, I just miss being in touring car. I've been at the last two rounds just to show everyone I'm still keen. I'm still here, and it's so easy to be forgotten in British touring car. It's like Jason Plato, who now in that paddock. It's like he's such a legend, and it's almost like everyone's forgotten him already. And so you just have to keep relevant and keep my face out there. And who knows, you might even see me back in a touring car this year, but we'll see.
Be good.
Yeah.
We'll see how we go. Yeah. I've just seen actually earlier on today over in IndyCar, one of the drivers has lost his seat. Do you want to head over there and
Wait, I'm here. Ring me. I'll have about that.
Ed Carpenter Racing. Get on the phone.
Yeah.
Happy days. Because obviously I bumped into you briefly at Snetterton just to say hi because you were busy chatting with the fans and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it'd be great to see you back in the touring car this year.
I mean, I've had
if it comes together.
A few meetings with some sponsors, and everything seems to be moving in the right direction to get back to touring car. But again, I've got to really think about this GT stuff now. I'm a hot prospect as a bronze driver. I am a bronze. That's not my job. I've got a day job. I don't do this for a living, as it were. And and looking at the grid next year, Le Mans all goes to GT3 cars. And me as a good peddler as a bronze, I reckon I've got a good opportunity as a bronze cup in European GT. So I've had a chat with a very, very good bronze as well. So maybe that might be on the calendar to do that, try and win that, and then we automatically get an entry into Le Mans. And you imagine my career, 3 years in touring car, race at Monaco, do the hill climb in a championship winning car, and then top it off at Le Mans, the biggest race in the world. And then I think, to be honest, I'll probably just hang my gloves up after that. I don't think I can do much more.
I mean, that's not too shabby, is it? I mean, it's pretty good.
In a 6-year career, three championships, and Monaco and Le Mans.
Monaco, Le Mans, and Goodwood. Yeah. It'd do. And we've got Le Mans this weekend, which I cannot wait for.
Yeah, I'm going to miss it because I'm in Magaluf on a stag do, believe it or not.
That's all right. There's nothing to do in Magaluf anyway. No, good stuff. I mean, we've got what have we got here? Just another just one more question before we sort of wind it down. We always have some fun questions towards the end. Where are we? Mark O'Neill, there you are. I'm sure someone else asked this as well, or it might have been Mark asking again. I'm not sure. Just what do you think of the BTCC this year? Obviously, the guys over, in the Fords, they're smashing it, aren't they?
Well, I mean, it's obviously I see things differently from what the fans see I actually went down at Thruxton. I went out into the complex. I watched the cars come through there. I was at Snetterton. I went out around the track and was watching different things and different cars. And I obviously driving them and being so close in it, I can see a lot more. And I tell you what, that Napa team have got it sewn up because they're not showing all their tools either. I don't think. I think there's still more to come from that team, and with people like Tony Carosa and Rob. Rob was actually my engineer at Palmax last year. Rob, who's running Dan Robot, and and Tony and Rob are very, very close, and they're very good friends, and they helped each other out last year when Ash was in the Ford, and obviously vice versa, like what Ash was doing at Nokia, I put on my car, and it was a little bit like that. But then, because they're great mates and they're great help each other out, but it's them down to them guys, them engineers at Napa have got the car exactly where they want it, and that just a credit to Ash and his team really, and Rob going over there as well. I mean, look at what Robo's doing. You know, it's best he's ever driven, and it's because he's got one of the best engineers on his car, and they don't get enough credit. The engineers. I mean, I work with Steve Brady and Mick Cook from BTC Racing as well, and great engineers, and you just sort of, you know, you're only as good as what them guys are as well. So, you know, we do the easy bits, get in and drive around in circles. They're the ones that have got to make it go quick. So, but on the flip side of touring car, if I'm honest, I think it's the easiest season to race in touring car this year. Gutted, I'm not there. I think, you know, looking at the grid, it's probably the easiest grid it has been in a few years. And that's no disrespect to people, but it's just obviously there's a lot of new drivers coming in and stuff, and there's a lot of us all who have exited. You know, me, Ash Hand, Gordon Shedden, Jason Plato. You know, a lot of people left at the end of last year, and then like, a lot of people new coming in. So, you know, looking at that back end of the grid, the last 10 are all pretty much, you know, new to it. And, you know, last year I reckon you had 20 people on the grid that could win a race, and this year I reckon you only got 10. So it's definitely, I think you're seeing that because of them. There's less drivers, you know, the Sheddens, the Matt Neils, you know, them sort of people would be in the mix, wouldn't they? With
those sort of top guys, as it were.
And I think the Toyota,
even Tom Oliphant as well, he's gone, hasn't he? So
I think Butcher, you know, we haven't seen the best of him yet because of obviously the engine. There's new development on the new engine this year as well. You know, and that'll get going. But I just feel it's a little bit flat with the drivers. I just feel like the energy's flat. I turned up at Snetterton and it was like, I was like, what is going on here? Like last year, like all the hospitality units were there. It was buzzing over the far left-hand side. This year turned up, there was like 3 hospitality units there, like no one there. It was really weird, and I was like, what's going on here? And then Thruxton was okay, to be fair. It looked quite busy down there at Thruxton, to be honest. But again, I still feel they should open up for anyone to come in on the inside of the track there at Thruxton, because a lot of people.
Rather than the special pass.
Same with Brands Hatch. It doesn't really make no difference, I don't think. But they should let the fans in. You shouldn't have to have a weekend pass to get in there or whatever. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, I would say that's a little bit. But all the characters are gone, aren't they? You know, Plato, Parfit, you know, all these guys have gone. Yeah, and it's just a little bit like, I don't know. It just feels a little bit like everyone's a bit prima donna-y, if you ask me, a little bit now. Well, sorry for saying that, but
no. I mean, I felt. I mean, I was at Snetterton. I actually won a competition, which is very, very good. And I was there, and even as a fan, which I am first and foremost, I mean, this has allowed me to get a little toe inside the ropes a little bit doing this. But as a fan, first and foremost, even the fans watching didn't seem as, I don't know, not enthusiastic, but, you know, before it was like, oh, whoa, everyone's, people next to us were having a chat when the cars weren't there, just like, oh, here they come. And it just seemed a little bit flat from the fan side as well. There's nothing really making it click.
I don't know, because I obviously normally in the car, so I don't really see all that side of it. But
of course,
it was good to go out at Thruxton and you know, and get in the crowd and see what it's like watching from different corners and stuff. But yeah, I just Snetterton was really weird for me. Like, it was just,
it felt odd. I mean, I'd never been before. I'd not been because it's not on the way to anywhere, is it? Apart from Norwich. And I've never really swung in there. And I got in there, and it, as I said, it just felt a bit odd, and it felt like it's not how Snetterton always feels, even though I've not been there. You know, it just felt a bit odd.
Yeah, it did. But then when I got to Thruxton, it did feel like a normal touring car weekend. Everyone was buzzing, but the sun was out when it was good weather, and everyone was enjoying it. So hopefully it carries on the buzz. I still think touring car Toka doing a good job. I still like to see a bit more, you know, imbalance of, you know, like when it used to be the weight weight, it was great because you'd see different cars winning and up the front all the time. But I'd like to see a bit more of Alan playing around with the hybrid and a bit more boost or something like that for the lower cars to challenge or stuff. I mean,
just to make it a bit more effective, almost.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was a procession, wasn't it, Thruxton? You know, the first race was cardboard cut out of race 2. Race 3 was pretty good, but the Napa car was so far down the road on everyone. It was just, it was just mad to see, really.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like Andy Rouse back in the day with his boost and all that. Yeah, just off down the road. Tracy Hickley said, "I think reverse grid should be race 2." That's an interesting one. That might spice up a little bit.
I think Thruxton was Thruxton because obviously everyone's running the hard. I do really like the idea of the 3 compounds. I never really got to do it. I did in 19, but it was only the medium and the soft. And then obviously the hard one went to Thruxton. But this year they've got the 3 compounds, which I really like because it did make for good racing on the soft tyre because the soft tyre was mega, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think you did see the cars. I mean, you obviously saw Ash Sutton starting on the medium and everyone on the soft, and he still blitzed it. But I think seeing Josh Cook and Aidan Moffat come through the field in race 3 at Snetterton was great. With the tyre working like that. So that's a massive positive. I think a bit more work with a hybrid, which they can do, and you're going to see racing like it used to be in touring car.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Aidan Moffat. He's one of these guys. If he gets in a car that can showcase what he can do, he's a top racer.
Yeah.
I think he's one of those guys. No one really mentions him.
No, he's very under the radar, but he's just a natural talent. He's just one of them lads who don't even really have to try, and he's just a natural driver and good family. Good people to be around at the sport, and Bob and Donna and Aidan. They've all been really cool with me as well, and and they've helped me out in the past with different bits and pieces. So. Yeah, I mean, it's good to see him get on the podium at Thruxton as well, and hopefully see him win a race again.
Yeah, definitely. Plus, Bob gave me an umbrella at Silverstone last year when it was raining, so that was nice.
Yeah.
Cheers, Bob. But we've got how about a bigger reverse grid? Just throw a random full reverse grid every now and again. There's so many kind of things coming in, but we come.
Yeah, I mean, they can do. I mean, but I think. If it's not broken, don't fix it. All right, it's getting that, but we're still in the learning years of hybrid. So, when you go back to 2020 and it was weight, it was a great bit of racing. Do you know what I mean? It was, but they will find the sweet spot, and then when it comes back, it'll be mega.
Yeah, it's just sort of we're in that transition period which is always going to be one. So, yeah, fair one. Right, we're going to wind down with some sort of fun questions and stuff. I mean, we had a lot of fun anyway. It's been brilliant. Okay, fun. These are ones that I always throw at people, even people like Mario Andretti and Jackie X. They've had these questions.
Okay.
As you know, before we do that, the campsite live, bring it back because it's brilliant and everyone loves it. If you can do it, do it.
Yeah, I will do.
Good, smashing. There you go.
23.
Yeah, let's do it. Right, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, tell us some stories about Paul O'Neill. No, we could be here all night. We've got to get him on.
Yeah, you got to get him on. He's a good character.
Oh, he's just so busy, isn't he? I can't get hold of the bloke. I mean, anyway,
I'll text him.
Yeah, tell him to come on. We'll have a right laugh. Anyway, cheers. Okay. Did you have a favourite driver growing up?
Senna was Senna. Yeah, well, I mean that's always everyone. Yeah, everyone's. He was so good to watch, wasn't he? And he was so like natural, and I liked his attitude as well. He was a bit arrogant, but he was also very spiritual and very, he was that sort of guy. I think wore his heart on his sleeve, and but James Hunt was also like I look at my lifestyle and my racing and stuff, and I'm very, very similar to what we used to be. And it's probably a good job I'm married.
You're the next generation, James Hunt.
Yeah. So them two are probably my two that I favour.
That's good. I'm glad you said that because obviously I've got a bit of Ayrton artwork there. You can't see it up here. I've got a James Hunt bit of artwork from James Gibson Artworks. If anyone wants to check him out,
Yeah.
please do because he's a proper artist. I've got James up there. Good stuff. Okay. Have you got a favourite car that you've raced
Oh,
so
that
far?
I've raced.
Yeah.
Oh, I would have to say.
We're going to say no disrespect to anyone who doesn't get mentioned here, by the way. I'm going to put
Well,
that in there.
I would have to say, like, it's a toss. I mean, I loved the Ginettas because I won. And I just seem to like they just seem so easy to drive, and they're like a proper race car, even though like it's a Ginetta at the end of the day, but it's like a proper race car. And
Yeah. Built for
you
it.
know, I mean, the McLaren was amazing to drive at Monza, but I just didn't get on with the brakes. I'm still struggling with the braking system, which is like a road car brake, and it's like ABS is kicking through, and it's just a bit weird. And then you've got obviously the Porsche 992, which is like so refined and so good to drive and race. I'd say it's out of them because the touring car is horrible to drive. It's like it is the worst car like you can drive. Like anyone would tell you, it's just like, oh mate, when you get them right and you get the sweet spot, yeah, they're okay. But you know, with the rear steer, the car's moving all the time, and you have to be so like, you know, with the Porsches and the McLaren and the Ginetta. Well, you know, maybe the Ginetta not so much because that is like another like. But with the Porsche and the McLaren, they're so refined and so like easy to drive. Um, I would have to say, I'd probably say the Porsche.
Yeah. Proper job. And around Monaco as well.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I'd say the Porsche. Yeah.
It's kind of leads on to the next question. And you may have answered it already, but I mean, have you got a favourite circuit that you've driven?
What without Monaco? Obviously,
I was going to say, I mean, Monaco's probably answered that already,
I mean,
hasn't it?
I mean, obviously you can't beat that. But then you know, straight away I would have to say Monza, because of the. I mean, even though I did love Austria and I loved it, I just weren't in the right frame of mind that weekend
Sure.
to get that feeling and get that buzz. But Monza was amazing to be there. For European tracks, I'd say Monaco and Monza, but for the UK, weirdly all my results are at Thruxton, and I hate it there. And but weirdly, all my worst results are at Knockhill, and I love it there. So it's just really weird. So Knockhill is my favourite track in the UK because it's just so good to drive.
Yeah. I mean, it's brilliant enough to watch at.
I love it there. The fans are amazing. Scott, I mean, you know, if I come back, I want to be Aidan Moffat racing around Knockhill, man, because that buzz for him must be. It's so good there,
awesome.
yeah, so good.
Well, I spoke with Ronan Pearson. He said the same thing. It's just awesome. Yeah, the local lads, thumping around there.
I feel like when I'm there, I've got so much support from the Scottish crowd as well. Like it's mega. It's like being at Brands Hatch for me.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. But you can't understand what they're saying. No, I can get away with that because my wife's from Scotland, so it's all right.
And that's probably why I get on well up there because I literally don't understand anything they say either. So I can't offend them.
Yeah, thanks. No, we can understand you fine. It's all good. Don't worry, folks. Oh, that's a great question, Dave Cox. Zeus. He said, "What is the best memory of racing, but not in the car?" That's a great one. Is that as a spectator or I don't know? That's a great question, Dave. Thank you.
Not in the car.
Yeah.
I would have to say it was probably like the trip to Gwadex in that van that I told you about with Tom and Josh. Everyone was chilled. Everyone was having a good time, and we was on our way for a 4-day or 3-day tyre test in Gwadex, and that's probably one of my best memories. I mean, yeah, I mean. Another time we had a good fun. Me, Neil Roswell from GKR Scaffolding, and Dan Kirby from Trade Price Cars. We all had a boys' day out in 2021 when I weren't racing up to Croft. That was another good memory. Brilliant. And good fun. You know, we had a really good laugh that weekend, and yeah. But I think that memory wise, I'll tell you what. like a sentimental memory. After I won the Jack Sears, we stayed at the track, me and my wife and my kids, and the next morning the trophies in the camper, and the next morning we got up quite early. We was up at about 8 o'clock after we'd had a few beers that night as well, and we'd got up early in the camper. It was freezing cold. I said, right, come on, let's all get up and we're going to go for a walk, on a track walk. So me, Jodie, Bonnie and Hugo all walked the track the very next day after winning the Jack Sears, and the fresh air and all the confetti was still over the track, and the kids had their scooters, and me and Jodie just walked it, and it was just like walking around there, because obviously COVID as well, no one was there, literally no one was there, and it was just so weird. It was a real nice memory, and it was coming off of such a high intense weekend, and and winning it, and then just spending that whole lap with my family, just walking around that track, was probably a feeling that I'm never gonna forget. Do you know what I mean? And it was a nice feeling just to end the season. We've won the championship. I'm in the history books. Happy days. Touring car. See you later. Do you know what I mean? That's how it felt.
Yeah.
So
nice way to end the year.
It was nice. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely stuff. Okay, what we got here? Oh yeah. All right, then here we go. We kind of alluded to it earlier. I mean, is there anything that you'd love to have a go at? Whether it be like Le Mans or NASCAR or truck racing or lawn mowers or whatever. Is there anything that you'd love to have a go?
I mean, obviously Le Mans on the hit list for sure.
Yeah.
Vince really wants me to race at Le Mans. So that's definitely on the list, and truck racing I'd love to have a go at. It looks quite fun, but I think Porsche Super Cup is definitely something I need to revisit, and I've got some unfinished business, and to turn up and do the championship properly. We had one test in Porsche before we went racing, and then when we left Austria, Lettner were going off for a 5-day test at Spa and Hungary and stuff like that. So to do it properly like that, and we were just doing one test here and there, and we just always on the back foot. So I'd like to go into Super Cup and do it properly with a proper testing plan, and I reckon I could have a good go at winning the Pro-Am Championship in there.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be a cool thing to see. Just while we're on the subject of Porsches, very quickly, just got to say, we mentioned him a few times. Big props to Harry King. I mean, what he's doing is unreal. He's a proper lad, isn't he? Right. Proper driver.
To win Monaco like he did.
Yeah. He's the first Brit to win in Monaco since God knows when. I mean,
yeah, and I see him at Thruxton, and I'm so proud of him. Do you know what I mean? And seeing him, the way he races and stuff, like, the kid is unreal. And I'd love to see him and Robert De Haan go at it now, because Haan's come on the scene, and he's very, very. I mean, watching that Octane Porsche go around, it's like watching Harry King go around, and I think it'd be mega to see them two going at it, because they're very similar in driving styles. They're both fully 110% committed every single lap, and but Harry is just. I think he's different class. I mean, when I raced out there, and I watched people like Dylan Pereira and Larry Tenvorder and stuff like that, they are proper drivers. They are Formula One level drivers that didn't get there because of the budgets or whatever, but they are, if their career could easily have been Formula One without a shadow of a doubt. Like, you would put them boys against any of them Formula One drivers, and then Harry King goes out there like last year, and he had his first full season. I mean, like I said, no disrespect to Parker, because we didn't have the budgets in position to do what we did, but Lettner, put Harry in a good team, in the right team, and look what he does. They're full on Formula One driver style. You put them against Albon and Russell and people like that. They'll give them run for their money all day long. It's just a different way, tin top racing, or GTs, or single seaters, and some people had the budgets like Lando and had to go single seater after Ginettas, and some people haven't. And but don't get me wrong, don't take away any of that talent on that Porsche Super Cup grid, because that's a proper grid.
Yeah, there's some proper talent on it, and I'm full agreement with Harry King. With you about Harry. I mean, some people in your mind, they just think they're just like a level up, and
Yes, another
You
one
know,
you should get on here.
I've had Harry come on last year.
He did actually. He did actually.
He came in.
Get him on again now since he's won at Monaco.
Yeah, I'm going to try. Well, he said to say thanks because he's just down the road from me. And he said he'd buy me a cup of tea one day, and he hasn't done it yet. So
yeah,
I'm going to send him a message in a minute.
He's a posh boy, isn't he, from Windsor?
He is, yeah. I'm sort of with the plebs from down the road in Reading. No, cool. I mean, okay, Harry's awesome. He's really quietly spoken as well. He doesn't shout about it. He's a good
he's proper lad.
Yeah, good stuff. Right then, final question. And you've raced against loads of real sort of top drivers across the board and stuff like that. I mean, I've got a list of some of them. I always go through my rambling list at the end. And you mentioned them. We've got like Larry Tenforder and we've got like Dylan Pereira and Jackson Evans, Johnny Adam, Jules Gounon, even Sandy Mitchell in GTs. But you raced against like Colin Turkington, Andy Jordan, Rob Austin, Camish, Chilton, Cook, Hill, Sutton, Plato, Neil. Some fella called Blundell as well. You've raced against all these guys and more. I mean, is there anyone that sort of sticks out in your mind as being, just for whatever reason, as being top of the tree? Or one of two?
It's a really good question. I mean, for instance, when you see King and Tenborder and Guven and Pereira, Jackson Evans, all them guys, they're just different level. Like, I don't get me wrong. If I started when I was 6-7 years old, I might be on that level. But watching them boys go around are amazing. But then I'll be honest with you, like you go to touring car and you see what Ingram, Cook, Turkington, Hill, you see what them boys can do, and it's almost like them lot on that level, in touring car. And then you go to GT and you look at Marcello and Gounon, like he's just different class. He's different class. Like
and you mentioned Marcello. He's proper.
Both of them, Gounon and Marcello, like a factory Mercedes drivers. And when we was out in European GT, they're in the same car. And I tell you, the most underrated guy at the minute, well, he's not underrated, he is rated, he's mega. But I tell you who is probably better than all of them is Dan Harper.
Yeah, he's made a real step.
Dan Harper is different class, mate, and he's just maturing with age, and and another shout out on the. I know he's probably not on this level, but he's probably going to kill me for saying that. Is David Pittard? I mean, Pittard has just gone from strength to strength over the Nordschleife stuff and the VLN and stuff like that. I mean, you put anyone against Pittard out there on that track, I reckon he'd give you a run for his money. But back to Harper, I think he's different class, mate, that kid. And he's just he's so good. And I think where Harry done such a good job in Porsches and then Harper came in, I mean, obviously he won the championship, but I think it was more like King, and then it was King and Camish, but Harper was sort of a little bit, not under the radar, but because he smashed it. But
he wasn't getting mentioned.
Now, as soon as he's now a factory BMW driver, he's just gone from strength to. And I tell you what about Dan Harper, he is another Harry King like level kid. They're so cool. They're so nice. They've got nice families, nice people, and they're genuinely good lads. They're really nice to be around. They're really accommodating, and I think I would go to dark horses. Harry King and Dan Harper are probably the best I've raced against.
Brilliant. Love that. Definitely guys to look out for. Well, they're already around, but definitely guys to follow because And
in touring, I'd have to say Josh Cook is, only because I know how good he is at engineering and driving, and but you then look at, I haven't worked with Ingram, and you see the way he sets the car up, it's so unique, and the way he drives it and stuff. And then you look at Turkington, who's just like a legend, and then you got Plato and Matt Neal are the hardest guys to come up against. It's just there's too many of I don't know Gunan. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? I don't know them sort of people. I only know how good they are, like by watching them. But yeah, obviously with a relationship with these people, it sort of like goes to a different level, because I see how hard King and Harper and Cook and Turkington all work. Do you know what I mean? I was at Thruxton having a few beers in the Thruxton Centre, and I see Colin Turkington go off and do a track walk on his own at about 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. And he'd already done the track walk before that, and he just had his headphones on and then off he went. And I was thinking, do you know what? Like that is. And then when I went to the Toker Awards, we all got absolutely hammered one night. I can't remember. I think it's 2019 or whatever. 2020 when I won the Jack. No, we didn't have one in 2020 because I never had one in Jack Sears when I won the Jack Sears.
Yeah, you didn't get a proper date.
Never got it. So it's 2019, and I remember waking up when I was hanging off badly, and I came down for breakfast at about 8 o'clock, and Colin's in the gym like the next day, like 7:30, 7 o'clock. He's in the gym, and then he comes out, gets his newspaper, gets his porridge, and like he's eating, and I'm like
he's dying in the corner.
Yeah. So I mean, it goes to show, like, you know, if I ever get the opportunity to get in a front running car, maybe next year, then I'm gonna give it everything to be at the top of my game. I'm gonna literally like eat, sleep, and breathe it, because I realise these opportunities don't come around every day, and I think I haven't taken it for granted, because I do put a lot of hard work in, and I put a lot of hard work in when I won the Jack Sears. Maybe I didn't work as hard in 2022, which I should have done probably, my own criticism. But I think if I get back on what I've missed now, I think if I get back on the grid, I'll definitely dedicate my whole life to it.
Yeah, and I think, and we'd all love to see it. You see you in a front running car, whichever the series it is, and we know you give it 110% and more. So yeah, fingers crossed it can all come together. And that's probably a good time to wrap up. I mean, we've been talking for ages, and it's been brilliant. I love it. Yeah, it's good. That's great. It's love it. Firstly, thank you to everyone who's tuned in, and for all the questions and the comments. I've seen them scrolling through. I think we've covered everything. Thank you so much, everyone, for the support.
I would like to say thanks for all the support that I get. Even walking around Thruxton and Snetterton, I get so many people who still recognise me, and still want my autograph and pictures and stuff like that. And it's amazing to get that feeling. So I appreciate all the support, and thanks for bringing me on here, mate.
Well, I mean, it's about time we got round to it, isn't it? I mean, obviously, as I said, like a lot's gone on since we spoke on Instagram, 3 years ago. So, hope there's plenty more to come. But no, thank you so much for coming on and having a chat. It's been good. It's been great to catch up properly, because we're always passing in the night, ships in the night, and we're on media days and whatnot. So,
carry on, mate. I know how hard this job is for you, and you might feel like you're not getting any love, but trust me, everyone talks about it, everyone watches it, and even if they're not watching on the night, everyone has a little flick through and watches it anyway. So just keep putting in the hard work. And I mean, some of the people that you've had on there, credit to you. And I think when you, as a bit of feedback for yourself, I think watching you from the very start, when you're like, I don't know, but it's coming more natural for you now, and it's, you're getting real good at all the interviews, and I think keep going, mate, and who knows what could happen.
No, great stuff. No, thanks. I appreciate that. I mean, after 97 of these, I should have improved a bit, shouldn't I?
Yeah, it's a good job.
But I mean, just as you mentioned it, I mean, I know sometimes it comes across that I'm a bit of a miserable so-and-so, but we all have bad days, and it is a lot of work and a lot of time. But but I do it because I love it, and if I come across as a misery guts, it's only one day out of about 300.
But that's what I mean.
Don't hold it against me.
Yeah, no one does, mate. And we all of us as drivers have the same days, and teams have the same days, and you're ready to throw it all in, jack it all in. I've been there. Austria, for instance, I felt like just throwing it all in then, and then when I didn't get the drive this year in touring car, I thought, do you know what? I've had enough of this now. I'm probably just gonna can it off, and then some.
And you can feel a hissy fit building up inside you, can't you?
And then all of a sudden you're back in the game, aren't you?
Yeah, happy days. We get nights like tonight where everyone's been brilliant. So we'll stick with it. It's all good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll catch up at a track or something somewhere. I'm sure I owe you a pint for something at some point.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, happy days.
Cheers, guys.
Good stuff. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks and thank you, Crees, for coming on. Brilliant hearing from you, and obviously all the best for the rest of the year. And we'll see everyone very soon.
Cheers, guys.